What's up, freak bitches, wherever you may be, however you may be watching. Thank you for giving us just a little bit of your time. Busy day around here, but we're here to talk about two things. One of them is 90s movies that we like. The other one is going to come at the end of the video where I remind Jeremy just how bad the 90s still sucked. As much as he wants me to try to admit that the 90s were better than they were, nah, can't do it. But there were some pretty good movies coming out of the 90s, and we're going to talk about a bunch of them over here today. Here to do that with me is the Dowager Countess herself, Lady Cora. How are you tonight, ma'am?
I'm here.
Joining us on vacation, by the way. So she's a gamer. She could have just said, hey, I can't make it. Can you get someone to fill in? But she's like, nope, I'm not going to let that stop me. I'm still going to show out. That's a gamer.
Amen.
I like that. I like that. And as always, the child of the 90s himself, the one who thinks he's going to prove me wrong with his list today about the 90s being one of the worst decades ever for entertainment, my hetero life mate nonetheless, Jeremy Wolner. What's going on with you, brother?
Well, this was my idea because I want your dirty horror mouth to admit that the 90s did have some gems.
The 90s had
And
some
people
gems.
in the chat who said they wanted us to do the 90s movies as well, so.
I never said the 90s didn't have some gems. I said the 90s were still overall a very terrible decade.
I know. Yeah, I'm like, we've all heard Frank on many occasions now say the 90s suck. I'm like, yeah, but then he's like, oh, but like, this is a great movie. This is a fucking amazing movie too. And I'm like, oh, make up your mind. This is how this happened. He said the 90s sucked, and I whirled the fuck around and said, hey, I came out of the fucking 90s, and I'm pretty awesome. So,
well, the 90s gave us Jeremy, so we'll go with that. Well, at least we got the win on that one. Just want to say what's up to everybody in the chat real quick. As you can see the chat up in the upper right-hand section of your screen. Jim M is all over the place early. What's going on, Jim, my good man? Browns are looking pretty good so far this year. Penny the Pooh, always in here. There's me telling everybody we're up to start. Bry Guy's in here. Van Edwards, some regular listeners. Love to have you guys around. King Need Gore, what is going on, my good man? I hope you I think you're pretty new to the channel. Go ahead and subscribe. Hit the like button if you would. Rachel, as always, in here supporting all of us. Always so very supportive. Jim M is already calling out movies in the chat, saying Saving Private Ryan. I'm sure that's going to be on somebody's list. But it's time we get to said list, and we're going to start with the Dowager Countess. What do you have for us to lead off, ma'am?
Okay, first pick is, I'm going to go with 10 Things I Hate About You from 1999. It doesn't matter who directed it or wrote it. It's just this teenage rom-com movie that's loosely based off of a Shakespearean play called The Taming of the Shrew, which is why I really liked it, because they really tie in some Shakespearean like lingo and undertones, and I was always a huge fan of Julia Stiles to begin with. I love all her movies. Heath Ledger was in it, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Larissa Olenek, I'm sure I'm chopping that up. And there are a bunch of other people. Allison Janney played the creepy but funny high school counselor who writes a romance novel during the day when she's working with the kids. Anyways, it's just this great 90s movie. It came out the year I graduated high school, so it was sentimental. And just kind of set in Seattle, so being from the West Coast, this was kind of, cool for me too. I know it's not really Oscar worthy, but it's the silliest and least significant of my favorite 90s movies. So there you go. 10 Things I Hate About You.
Jeremy, what are some of your thoughts on this film?
well, this is kind of, I guess, hindsight, but it's like, well, the elephant in the room was obviously Heath Ledger. But, I mean, even in this time, it's like, this is when he started to take off. People realize, like, oh, this dude can act. Like, this is, one of his little golden nuggets of movies like this, and like The Patriot and shit like that. Yeah, I just kind of said. I mean, it's one of those kind of like teen movies. That, I just had to say teen movie, and you kind of already get the gist of it,
Yeah.
All a lot of the same tropes, and it's a fun movie.
I will admit freely right now to having a little bit of a celebrity crush on Julia Stiles. It's like part bitch face, part absolutely gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
She's actually got a lot of range. I mean, she's been in a lot of different things. I mean, she's more known for some of the romantic stuff. That one dancing movie, Save the Last Dance.
She was really great in a dramatic role in Mona Lisa's Smile with Julia Roberts.
I think I maybe saw that movie once a long time ago. Probably another one of the
but
probably one of the least known 90s movies. the 90s movies spit out a lot of movies. There was a lot of teen-centered stuff in the 90s. The problem was they made it all look so... What's the word I'm looking for?
Fake and perfect when real life isn't like that.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a specific word that I'm looking for, but I'm just not coming up with it right now. But it all looks so whitewashed. I kind of want to say they made everything look like they made life feel like a sitcom, and life is not a sitcom. It's like, and there were some movies.
If you want to throw in the Shakespeare, life is but a stage. In all the world, people merely players. Each have their parts, their exits, and their entrances.
Yeah, but
I know Shakespeare. Fuck with me.
Yeah, I don't know. Just the idea. I don't know. It's just the way they portrayed teen life, especially since I was a teen for most of the 90s. I was kind of like, it's like it doesn't really happen like this in high school. I graduated in 1996, and so all these movies are coming out. I'm like, dude, I'm about 1 year removed from high school, or 2 years removed from high school, and I'm like, nah, it doesn't really go like that at this age. But whatever, I'll accept it because it's a movie. And like I said, I thought Heath Ledger, even back then, was showing a lot of his acting chops. And Julia Stiles, I'm still in love with her. I don't care what anybody says. I saw this movie when it came out. It wasn't one of the movies that resonated that much with me. I mean, again, a lot of actors that went on to some big roles, though. I just had the cast list in front of me. What do I do with it? I really should have had this.
Also, I really liked the soundtrack for it. It was very good. So that was another little tidbit that made it good.
Cast list of 10 things I hate about you that I should have had up already and did not. Was ill prepared. This is what happens.
It's okay, I have it up.
This is what happens when I have 15 minutes between the end of a baseball practice and hitting go live. Julia Stiles, Heath Ledger, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Larry Miller, David Krumholtz, who was made very, very famous in Numbers, one of my favorite TV shows. So, yeah, I mean, they all went on. A modern day retelling of Taming the Shrew. There was actually a lot of that going around because the Shakespeare play Othello was a big inspiration for I don't know if you guys saw that movie. I think that had Julia Stiles in it as well, and it was a bunch of prep school kids.
But it was delayed though, like almost by 2 years, because there was a big school shooting that happened right before it was supposed to be released. So it was delayed release, but we did eventually get it, and I did like that movie.
Yeah, I thought that was an okay movie. Kind of a little dark. I thought it was maybe a little too emo.
Yeah.
But definitely a very interesting look at some things. Hey!
Rude.
Not everything needs to be emo. Calm down. But that is
not a phase. It's not a phase, Mom.
That is 10 things I hate about you. Please go check out the movie and then come back and go to the comment section below. Let us know what you guys think. And Jeremy, what's the first movie you want to talk about today?
Well, the first one, I somehow did this in ascending order. First one, because we talked about the first movie last week, I couldn't help, because we have to talk about T2, Judgment Day, from 1991.
Oh.
Where I was sitting there like, oh, we could time in, but I'm like, no, we're doing 90s movies next week. I'm like, I have to throw in T2 because god damn, what a sequel. What a fucking movie. This is one of those, like, I think this is where you get the phrase, like, I would say, like, it's a T2, or, like, you can say a Shrek 2. It's like one of those movies where the sequel is better, if not, at least on par with the original, and if the original's really good. And what a damn, like, twist that worked. You're like, oh my god, the Terminator is a good guy, and he's protecting John Connor? Holy shit. And it works because you got fucking Mercury boy over here fucking going through walls and shit. I tried to throw in a Freddie Mercury joke, I couldn't do it. Not on the fly. But look, if he busted out like a mustache and started doing some fucking Killer Queen or something, I'd lose my mind. But, I mean, shit, dude. Because you throw in this other threat of, like, the T-1000. And also, I mean, Robert Patrick, man, holy shit, what a guy. What an actor. Like, he taught himself how to fucking shoot the gun without blinking. He didn't blink, I think, at all. He tried to, like, act like an animal, just, like, straight focused on one thing, which was John Connor. I mean, wild performance. The fucking graphics of the metal hold up today. It's, I mean, My mind's still blown. I don't know. I can still watch this movie today and still be fucking just as amazed.
Yeah, James Cameron was definitely the king of the 90s when it came to action movies. Terminator 2 is in the running for possibly the best sequel ever made. There's a couple of movies that you can kind of throw in there, but a lot of people kind of run to this movie first. The interesting thing about the difference between the first Terminator and this one is that Arnold was still kind of a noob. He was a name when the first Terminator movie came out, but by the time we get to Terminator 2, he had already done stuff. He'd already done a billion action films between the original Terminator and this one, so he had become a huge, bankable Hollywood star. So that, I think, in turn, kind of helped drive this movie a lot. But then, you add in the fact that everything else about this movie was pretty kick-ass. And it was a bit.
Linda Hamilton, man.
It was a bit of an actiony, kind of typical 90s thing, but there is a lot of deep story in here. It has a little bit for everybody. It's got that sci-fi thing with the time travel and the Terminator and the weird cyborg Terminator, and then this weird liquid metal thing that somehow you get liquid metal to have a computer that is also liquid metal and weird, but whatever. Suspension of disbelief. And then you bring back most of the principal cast. You add in Edward Furlong, who this was really his breakout role. And then, you throw in the song from Guns N' Roses that was huge at the time. This really was just kind of like a perfect storm of all these great things to come about for any film. It just happened to be for a sequel, and that's one of the things that really drove it. Cora, what are some of your thoughts on the movie?
I love everything Terminator. I'm not going to lie. There's something just really... I've always loved and been drawn to sci-fi and, the stories where the world falls apart. That's why I really got pulled into the Avengers at the end with the whole Thanos snap thing. I mean, the idea that the world could just, everything we know and love would just disappear or change in a way. And, I mean, I like T3 better than this one, not going to lie.
Really?
But I did, yeah.
Me and Jeremy both just reacted with our faces. We were like, what, really?
But I did love this one. And there's just something about the way I think we've talked about this before, but I don't think anybody else besides Arnold Schwarzenegger could have pulled off the character that with a legacy, kind of like Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. I mean, anybody else, you would not have had the franchise that is the Terminator franchise. Anyways, I love T2. I love all of them, and for some people who maybe not have, like you were saying, have grabbed onto the first one, this one really pulls you in and makes you want more, and we got more. And we got more for many years, and we might get more still. So I'm glad they made the sequel, because it really created a whole... I don't know, I'm sure if we looked at movies that were made after Terminator 1 and 2, I'm sure it probably helped greenlight some really weird, maybe... creative projects that might not have gotten funding because how well this one did. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Well, time travel has always been a pretty good MacGuffin for anything sci-fi. I mean, that's kind of what Interstellar is almost. There is a certain amount of a time travel element without specifically being time travel, with this whole, Einstein-Rosen bridge, how time works when you're traveling at the speed of light, blah, blah, blah. So there is a big time switch, when Matthew McConaughey's character is going through the motions of that movie. So there is a big jump in time. But, yeah, I mean, it's always something that's been fun to screw around with. Actually, one of my favorite subjects to read about is time travel, because it's the what if. If you go back and, smash this bug 5 years ago, is it going to impact everything, how the world evolves for the next 20 years, that kind of thing.
The butterfly effect, man.
Yeah, interesting to think about, all the what ifs, and at the same time, is it ever going to be possible? Who the hell knows? There was actually it was a mockumentary that I had found on Amazon Prime a while back called The History of Time Travel, and it postulates it was obviously a mockumentary. It was obviously a movie that was made to look like a documentary.
Well, because it's called The History of Time Travel. The title's gold.
Yeah, but this guy in the 50s creates time travel because his wife died or something like that. It was not too much different from like the Time Machine.
The Time Machine,
yeah, the original from the I think it was the 50s or 60s that came out, and the newer one that came out in like the early 2000s. But but then he goes back to save his wife, but all kinds of other things go squirrely, and then it talks about how Russian spies got a hold of it and started changing things, and Chinese spies got a hold of it, and then finally this guy decided, to make that sacrifice and to go back and stop himself from changing anything because he saw how the world had gone all fucking chaotic and gotten all crazy. And it's actually really cool because over the course of this mockumentary, you're seeing it's obviously supposed to be this one guy sitting for this one interview, but you see things in the background change. Like, he's got a headline of a newspaper, framed on his wall that says, China lands on the moon, and it's got, guys playing the Chinese flag instead of the American flag and things like that. And then and as this guy's being interviewed, you can see little things in the background changing because the time has been changed. It's actually kind of funny to think about. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, it's...
they did that They did it in an episode of Doctor Who. She goes back to save her dad because her dad died in a car crash when she was a baby. So she's like, what happens if I save him? And she saves him. It's Doctor Who, so it gets ridiculous really fast. It opens up this interdimensional portal, and these fucking demons come out and shit, and it's start terrorizing the town. You know what I mean? It's they're stuck in the church because these otherworldly beings now just cross the hell over because she did that one thing by saving her dad, which he wasn't meant to. He wasn't meant to survive that, so things kind of went sideways real fast.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
but Terminator 2, in the hunt for one of the best sequels to ever be made, probably is. I would tell you guys to go see it, but let's be honest. I don't think there's a handful of people on the planet that haven't seen this movie at least once. but one of the things that's great about it is it stands out on its own, even if you haven't seen. The Terminator, you kind of get it. I mean, they were pretty good early in the movie about explaining, the doctor guy. What's his name? I'm drawing a blank. I forget the name. As he's talking to Sarah,
yeah,
I realized how closely that, as we were watching Terminator to do our retro movie review, which will be up here at some point in the next couple of weeks, it's gonna how closely that scene where she's talking to Kyle Reese mirrors the scene early in this movie where he's talking to Sarah. I mean, it was almost a shot-for-shot remake at times. I mean, he eventually gets frustrated and is yelling at these guys, yelling at the camera, hey, this is all going to happen. You guys are going to die. And then we see Sarah in this position at the beginning of this movie. She's like, hey, don't you guys get it? I've been telling you guys, these Terminators, blah, blah, blah. It was very much, that scene anyway was kind of shot-for-shot. Very interesting to see how the characters kind of evolve from one movie to the next. But if you have not seen Terminator, go see Terminator 2. The entire series is pretty good. 3, I didn't mind 3. It wasn't bad. Salvation was a pretty good concept, actually taking us to the future and showing us the war with the machines. Not great execution. Genesis, I thought, was actually a really cool concept. Again, not great execution. Kind of resetting the timeline and kind of having things go a little differently. This last movie, what was it? Dark Fate. I didn't think it was that bad. It's supposed to work as Terminator 3. It's supposed to be a direct sequel.
It was really good.
I actually liked it. I don't know why people shit on it the way they did. It was.
I think I stopped at Salvation, so I really have no idea what you're talking about after that because I was kind of
yeah, Dark Fate wasn't bad.
I was excited.
Because ultimately, one of the things you learn in Dark Fate, not to spoil those who haven't seen it, but the movie's been out for a couple of years, so that's your problem, is that you find out that they actually stopped Skynet. Skynet never came to be, but now there is this other group of asshole robots that want to start shit. I forget what they're called, but they're the ones that are causing all the chaos in this movie. So it's I don't know. It's a pretty good series. I'm hoping they don't do any more. In all honesty, I mean, give this thing a rest, and then maybe 30 or 40 years down the line, when you've got a whole new set of actors, and maybe it's kind of out of the public conscious a little bit more. You can go after it again, kind of start over again, and do it differently. But yeah, it's still.
I still want to see the TV show, like you suggested.
Sarah Connor.
I didn't watch it. I know a lot of people that said it was really good. That's all I can say. Is a lot of people really liked it. I never watched it. I think I caught a couple episodes and it didn't really do a whole lot for me, but they were kind of in the middle. I didn't start watching it from the beginning. But it is available on streaming services if you guys want to try to go give that show a try. Go watch it. You guys may like it. That's all. That's always what I say. Go watch it. You might like it. You might not. But give it a chance. That's all I'm saying. But that's Terminator 2 Judgment Day. If you haven't seen it, if you're one of the 3 people that hasn't, go watch it. It's a good movie. Now, I just realized looking at my list, my first 2 movies are about porn. I don't know if I did that subconsciously, but...
Well...
I
Thanks
tried
for the
to
warning.
I tried to kind of rank them from like of the ones
Yeah,
I ended up
because-
picking from my favorite or my least favorite to my favorite. So my last couple are gonna be my favorites, but I don't know. Honestly, I could put these in any way. The first movie I'm gonna talk about is the one that gave us Mark Wahlberg his huge breakout role, and that is Boogie Nights. Look, I'm serious. Sleep on this movie all you want for being kind of. It was a bit of an independent film. Honestly, this was actually birthed from. Well, I mean, let me give you a little about the movie first. It's a 1997 American period drama. It was written and directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, and it's set in Los Angeles, the San Fernando Valley, and focuses on a young nightclub dishwasher who becomes a popular star of pornographic films. And it chronicles his rise in what is considered the golden age of porn in the 70s and in early 80s through his fall during the excess of the 80s. He, of course, gets caught up with what a lot of people are getting caught up with in the 80s, drugs, alcohol, so on and so on. The film is actually an expansion of a mockumentary that Anderson made in 1988 called The Dirk Diggler Story. And it stars Mark Wahlberg, Julianne Moore, Burt Reynolds, Don Cheadle, John C. Reilly, William H. Macy, Philip Seymour Hoffman, and Heather Graham. So, all-star cast doesn't quite say it. Now, Heather Graham was still fairly young. John C. Reilly was still fairly young. Don Cheadle was still kind of in the beginning of his career. But Burt Reynolds actually won. He was nominated for an Oscar for this role. He didn't win. He actually won the Golden Globe for Best Supporting Actor. And Burt Reynolds, for some reason, did not like the fact that he won anything for this movie. I don't really know why. I think towards the end of his life, he had kind of come to grips with it. It was like, oh, okay, the movie actually wasn't that bad. For some reason, he didn't like having won the award for it. I don't get why. I think this movie is phenomenal. The film premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival on September the 11th of 1997 and was released theatrically in wider release on October 10th. And it garnered a lot of critical praise. It was nominated for 3 Academy Awards, including Best Original Screenplay for Anderson, Best Supporting Actress for Julianne Moore, and Best Supporting Actor for Reynolds. And the film's soundtrack, of course, is loaded with a bunch of great songs from the 70s and 80s. Rotten Tomatoes actually has an approval rating of 93%, which is pretty good for Rotten Tomatoes, based on 72 reviews, and an average rating of 8.1 out of 10. The site's critical consensus states, grounded in strong characters, bold themes, and subtle storytelling. I don't know about subtle, but Boogie Nights is a groundbreaking film for both director Paul Thomas Anderson and star Mark Wahlberg. This is... Look, again, it's one of those things. It's like when you say pornography or porn or whatever, you think about just what it is. You don't really think about the behind-the-scenes stuff of it and what these people are actually like, because that's not really what the genre does for you. You know what I mean? But there has been...
I watched for the story. Fuck you.
Show
What's
that
that?
was made all about... Wasn't there an HBO show set in the 70s all about the porn industry that, in my opinion, couldn't have been made unless things like this movie had been made beforehand?
I think there was. There's actually been a couple of documentaries and stuff that have come out. I know there's one that I've seen on, I forget what it was on. It was either on Prime or Hulu, called Life After Porn. No, that was on Netflix. It was the Life After Porn, where they kind of like showed this one actress who had ended up like leaving the porn industry. She moved to some farm in Wisconsin or something like that, and was just living with her husband and her family, going to church every day. And I don't know if they knew what her past was, but she was just living a very regular life. She had gotten into like a regular job, but I mean, they do follow a couple different actors and actresses as they kind of leave that industry and move on. But yeah, it's a pretty interesting period piece. It is actually loosely based on the life of very famous porn actor John Holmes, and Michael M in the chat just said that. Thank you very much. It was kind of loosely based on the life of John Holmes. Actually, you can go watch another movie called Wonderland, which is more specifically based on the Wonderland killings, in which John Holmes was somehow involved with. But it's pretty interesting. And on top of that, I mean, it's loaded with great actors. I mean, and on top of that, one of the ones I didn't even mention was the guy that played Dr. Octopus in Spider-Man. Why am I drawing a blank?
Alfred Molina?
Yeah. Alfred Molina
is
also
Nice.
that part of the movie where they kind of recreated the Wonderland incident. He's the weird guy who's trying to buy this boatload of fake cocaine off him or something like that, so they can get the money to go buy real cocaine. Because that's how you did it back in the 80s. You sold fake cocaine to go buy real cocaine. But I think this is a fantastic movie. Have either one of you guys ever seen this?
Oh, I have. And let me just say, it was one of the... I was raised by parents who were very careful with what I saw. I mean, I wasn't sheltered from reality, but when I saw this, let's just say it was enlightening in ways. And It was good. I really appreciate the effort they went into the costuming, the set designs, the everything that really immersed you in it. They really took you back to the time well. Also, the music was great and the acting was good. And the thing when you first popped in my head, the first you said Boogie Nights is, I'm a Mark Wahlberg fan, and I remember in an interview he did years later, someone asked him, of all the movies you've done, are there any movies you want your kids to see or don't want to see? And the first thing he said was, I never want my kids to see Boogie Nights.
Oh, no.
But anyways,
at least not till they're older. You know what I mean? Because there's some pretty heavy sexual themes in the movie. Of course, it's about pornography. I mean, I kind of understand it, but at the same time, I mean, it's a very honest piece about this very taboo kind of form of entertainment that a lot of people don't give it much thought, other than to what it just shows up as. When people are kind of intaking it, you don't really understand. I mean, nowadays the porn industry, from what I've read anyway, it runs a lot like Hollywood. It's actually very heavily regulated. Yeah. But I mean, back then it was guerrilla filmmaking. It was like you really are just like renting a hotel room somewhere. You're videotaping a couple of people doing what they're doing, and then you just throw it out there however you can get it out there. You get as many copies as you can, sell it to places, do whatever. Mm-hmm. It was the ultimate independent filmmaking experience. I kind of figure. Not that I was making a whole lot of porn back in the 70s and 80s, but that's just kind of how I assume it was. But yeah, I love the honesty and the fact that...
would be on any list by any decade, depending on which decade we're talking about. It just happens to have been made in the 90s. I think this is an iconic movie that it would stand out beyond a lot of the rom-coms and silly shit. So, I don't know. I think it's a good pick.
Yeah, I think you need movies like this every now and again that are just brutally honest about something that a lot of people just don't want to talk about.
Yeah.
And you do find yourself getting kind of emotionally invested in a couple of the characters. I mean, Julianne Moore's character, she's struggling because she wants to be able to see her son, but she obviously has some problems, not just her profession, but, she's dealing with, drug issues as well. And so you kind of get a glimpse of what it might be like for somebody like her. You get the glimpse of Mark Wahlberg, who, like I said, was a dishwasher at a restaurant, gets, pulled into this world of fame and money and all this other stuff, and how it can really, really affect how your mind works very, very quickly. And then, being in the world of this, of drugs and all this, and money and all this craziness, it's a really good look at what it was like back then. And, being involved in stuff like that back then and being involved with stuff like that now, it can be very, very different. To see how it operated back then was very interesting. Again, it was a great period piece. I loved it. But if you guys have not had a chance to go see Boogie Nights, right before the credits, that's when you finally get to see it. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, if you know, you know. And it actually was fake. It was not his actual penis, just so you know. He'll admit to that. I've heard him admit to it on several interviews that it wasn't actually him. I don't know, if I were him, I'd have been like, yeah, that was totally me. That was all me. But that is Boogie Nights. I hope you guys go check that movie out. Again, it's actually very, very good. Believe it or not, I mean, other than, there's not a great deal of nudity in it for the subject matter. I mean,
agreed.
There's some topless scenes, and I think you get that one, like, full frontal of Heather Graham, which thank you very much, Paul Thomas Anderson, for that. But other than that, there's not really a whole lot. A lot of it's kind of suggested, or it, like, starts to happen, and then it cuts to the next scene. So it's not really he doesn't use that sex and toplessness and nudity to sell. It's the story carries itself, which I always thought was really fantastic. And Paul Thomas Anderson's been making great movies for a long, long time now. And this was one of the ones that really got his career going. And I hope you guys check it out. It is a very good movie. There's a reason why it got nominated for a couple of big awards, because it's very, very good. But Miss Cora, what's the next movie that you would like to talk about tonight?
The next movie I have came out in 1995 with Morgan. How many movies did Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt and Kevin Spacey do together? Not many. I'm talking about.
Oh, I know what it is now.
The movie.
I know what it is. Yes.
I love true crime. I like mysteries, and this story is fucked up, but it's
shit.
Gwyneth Paltrow's head ends up in a box, for fuck's sake. I mean, you
What's
know,
in the
this
box?
movie is...
That's in the box. I'm
Shut
sorry,
up with the box!
I still can't
Shut
help
up
but
with the
laugh
box!
when I think of that line. It's like, I know it's sad, it's terrible,
Yeah.
but it's like now.
I don't know how else
you'd.
you'd act that. It's just, you know.
Yeah.
Yikes.
This movie just was fantastic. I don't know. It just was one that really stuck out to me and really cemented my love for maybe dark stuff like this when I was young. And there's not much else to say. It's fucking fantastic. Internet Movie Database summarizes it in one sentence: two detectives, a rookie and a veteran, hunt a serial killer who uses the 7 deadly sins as his motives. And the most fucked up one of all, I don't know which one it was. He took a guy, strapped him to a bed, and slowly starved him to death over like a year or something like that, and took a Polaroid of him every day and left it in a box at the foot of the bed. And on the day they go and find this guy's apartment, he's still alive and then dies the next day or something like that.
Barely alive, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like, oh my God, who has the time? I mean, and that's when you know this guy's a serious fuck. Anyway, so I just thought it was a really great combination of acting, storytelling. The flow of the movie goes really well. It isn't really, you don't get bored by it for a little bit, and then, everything happens too fast all at once. And then a lot of the movies you see about criminals and murderers, you don't see a lot of engagement with them outside of a jail cell or a courtroom with each other. But here, he actually leads Kevin Spacey, the killer, leads them to where he says the last body is. And, they're just chilling, waiting for, and he just wait a minute, and a courier drops off the guy's wife in a box, her head in a box. I mean, that whole scene was just like, I mean, I'm not a Brad Pitt fan all that much, but he did a fucking kick-ass job acting in this movie. I'll say that. So there you go. There's my pick 7. Love it, love it, love it.
Jeremy, you've got plenty to say about this movie, I know. What do you think?
That's almost like you know what kind of movies I like. Yeah. This is a fucking wild movie, man. Like she said, I like these kind of like crime drama movies too, like this and like Zodiac and shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, this me going through it, I was like, holy shit. And then like I showed it to my friend who hadn't seen it, and like hearing/seeing his reaction to that, like that fucking gut punch when he's like, my sin is envy, and then he's like, become wrath. I was like, oh, holy shit, that is a mic drop if there ever fucking was one. I was like, damn, and he just put this dude in the fucking corner. I was like, do it. And the problem is, it's like, well, he kind of still wins in this situation. That sucks. Your wife's still in a fucking box, man. I'm sorry. Oh, man. David Fincher's a fucking maniac, and I appreciate him for this movie because, like, the tidbit I think that sticks out to me is, like, he doesn't half-ass anything. And this is also in the 90s where they had people writing, like, 8 hours a day, probably more than that because, again, he's a psychopath. But they wrote all those fucking notebooks in that scene of just, like, all kinds of shit. And it sucks. It's like, I appreciate the effort, but it's like, it's only on screen for a few seconds. You only read a couple lines, but it's like, but holy shit, the setup for that whole thing is wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fichtner, I mean, look, he is one of the great directors of my lifetime for sure. And let's think about one of the reasons for that for a minute. He was employed at, let's see, he did a lot of stuff with George Lucas early in his career. He was hired by Industrial Light and Magic, ILM, in '83 as an assistant cameraman and map photographer, and he worked on movies like, okay, you ready for this? Return of the Jedi, Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom.
What?
So he cut his teeth in filmmaking under George Lucas, for crying out loud.
Holy shit!
And then he did some other stuff. Let's see, what did he say? He worked with other directors such as Michael Bay, Anton Fuqua, Michael Gondry, Spike Jonze. Zack Snyder, Gore Verbinski. So I mean, some of these are big names that have made big, great movies. And then he gets his breakthrough. He replaced Vincent Ward as the director for the science fiction film Alien 3, which didn't critically do very well, but still was nominated for an Oscar for its special effects. And then from then on out, let me get to his full bio.
He's got quite the resume. I had no idea. I just knew I loved this fucking movie.
He's wild, dude.
I mean, here's his filmography. It's like Alien 3. The next movie he did after that, this is the movies he's directed, by the way, is Alien 3. The next movie he did was 7. The next movie he did was The Game. And then he turns out with another movie we may hear a little bit about.
Talk about a mind fuck. The Game, man. Let me tell you.
That is interesting. And then he goes from The Game to another movie that I'm sure is going to show up at some point over the course of this discussion is Fight Club. Then he does Panic Room. And then he does one of my absolute favorite movies, and maybe it's because I grew up in the Bay Area, and for better or worse, this is kind of a legend where I come from. He did Zodiac, which is a phenomenal movie.
Great movie.
And is one of the movies that could be one of the movies that gave us Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, because that was one of the big comeback roles for him.
That was right before, yeah.
Yeah, and then he did The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. He did The Social Network, which a lot of people love. The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, Gone Girl, and he just did the movie Mank that came out on Netflix this last year, which I haven't had a chance to sit and watch yet, but I've heard it's very, very good. He's also been involved with stuff like House of Cards, which I love House of Cards. The last season wasn't fantastic, but I mean, I blame Kevin Spacey for that. But that show was phenomenal. I mean, and some of his stuff, I mean, just about everything is in the 80s for critical review on Rotten Tomatoes. I mean, Seven's at 82%, Zodiac's 89%, Social Network 96%. I mean, the guy, the box office, the guy makes a ton and a half of money. All of his stuff looks like it's turned a pretty good profit. But I mean, the guy, he's also put 7 actors. He's put 3 actors up for Best Actor. He's put 2 actresses up for Best Actress. And 2 for Best Supporting Actress. So look, the guy does it. Like I said, he's one of the great directors of my lifetime. And the hell of it all is I don't think the guy's done yet. He's only, God, how old is he? Let me look real quick. He's only 58. I mean, this guy could direct for another 30 years. Well, yeah, 20, 30 years. I mean, this guy could really put out. But yeah, he's great with these dark, gritty kind of. Just suspenseful, psychological things. He really knows how to get into someone's head.
I love it.
And like I said, you look at movies like this movie and like the Zodiac, and like Zodiac's the interesting one to me because everybody knows the story. It's like it's real easy to go to Wikipedia and kind of get the basics of the story. And they've made movies and stuff and documentaries about the Zodiac killer before, but the way that he portrays everything out there, it's very engrossing. It's very you feel nervous watching that movie because it does hit you at some point. You're like, wait a minute, this guy's still out there. We never actually caught this guy. So he does a good job of reminding you of just how scary these situations really are and getting under your skin with some of it. But it's 7's just
actually
another great feature.
There were 3 future Marvel stars in that fucking movie. You had Mark Ruffalo, you had Robert Downey Jr., and fucking Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah. Not to mention just a bunch of great actors, period. I mean, that movie alone.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That movie alone had a pretty killer cast. But, so definitely go see 7. Jeremy gives it his seal of approval.
Don't watch it if you're just about to sit down to a meal of spaghetti. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, it does have a pretty good use of the visuals, the gore.
Well, but to someone like me... Someone like me, though, I can sit there with a straight face, be eating, like, I don't know, steak tips and fucking shit, and then go to sleep and just, sleep like a fucking child. Like,
I could too. I think it'd be fun.
Doesn't bother me.
Let's see what some of you guys...
I don't know if you saw in the chat, but Van Edwards just gave his 5 in the chat.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to go to the chat to see what some of you guys are saying. So 9mm is on this list, says Jim M. I don't know. That was an interesting movie, though. Certainly a very interesting movie. Let's see. King Needs Gore says Beverly Hills Ninja. I don't know about Beverly Hills Ninja. Michael M says Boogie Night blows. Wahlberg smears the memory of great John Holmes. Well, you got to remember, it wasn't supposed to be a direct biographical film of John Holmes, it was all loosely based on, the character was loosely based on Holmes. That's why, I mean, it wasn't a direct telling of Holmes' story. There's been a couple of documentaries I've seen about John Holmes that have been interesting, but again, he was such a weird figure. A lot of people don't really know a lot about him, other than the fact that, I mean, even the stuff that has been said about how he's had sex with, 100,000 people and blah, blah, blah. None of this stuff can really be confirmed. A lot of this stuff is just legend. Who the hell knows? I mean, it could all be true. I don't know. It certainly sounds like the kind of life that he lived. A lot of it could be true, but I mean, again, it wasn't a direct telling of John Holmes' life. It was very loosely based on him. It was much more about the lifestyle of the people that were involved in this this filmmaking over the course of the time. Beersy's in the chat. What's going on, brother? Let's see. Philip Seymour Hoffman was going to too. Yeah, we talked about that the other day when we did the Twister review. Philip Seymour Hoffman was just pure gold. Rest in peace to him, absolutely. Van Edwards says what me and you were saying, Jeremy. What's in the fucking box? Again, it's that line. Every good movie has that one or two lines. TSS is in the chat. What's going on to you, brother? Let's see. Van Edwards, he says his favorite movies of the 90s are Blade. Okay. Desperado, not bad. Dusk Till Dawn. Yeah, not a bad movie at all. Okay. Tombstone, good movie. And The Big Lebowski. I can't really argue that list. I don't... a couple of those...
That's fair.
Yeah, one or two of those may come up later on. Let's see. The best... JCS Foot Rub, there's got to be something wrong with him today. He said the best 90s movies ever made was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Look, entertaining. Some of them were good. Entertaining. I'll give you that much.
It's entertaining.
I'll sit and watch it. It's fun. It's fun. Glorious One says Phantom Menace. End of story. Well, I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of Star Wars discussion coming up. Yeah.
You don't want to start that fight.
Yeah, there's going to be some Star Wars discussion coming up at some point. I'm very, very sure. But let's get on to Jeremy's next movie. Jeremy, what do you want to talk about next?
It is actually not Phantom Menace, so
it's not very well on that one. Unfortunately for you all, it's not Phantom Menace.
No, I'm sorry to deprive you all of that. But I guess a mild segue, whoever said from Dusk Till Dawn, mine is in fact a Quentin Tarantino movie. I made this list and realized I think like 3 of these 5 are like in my top 5 like of all time. This being one of them is Pulp Fiction from '94. I could sit here for like another 3 hours talking about Pulp Fiction, but I'll try to narrow it down. Where do you even fucking start with this movie? Because I don't think the movie knows either. I mean, you start with... Wait.
Well, the cast is epic, for the record.
Oh, I mean, yeah, shit, you got John Travolta, Samuel L. Jackson, you got Tarantino himself, you got fucking Ving Rhames, Bruce Willis, Uma Thurman, fuck, who else is in that movie? Can't remember Zed's name. Fuck, he was in The Mask. Yeah, this is just like, it's kind of, I like the concept of it. It is just a weird mash of all these like little storylines that are all kind of happening, and they do intertwine in a couple sections. And this movie really takes place over like maybe the course of like 2 days, maybe 3. Yeah, you got Ving Rhames being obviously they're talking like mob boss. He's married to Uma Thurman because he has good taste. And he's got these 2 low-rent hitmen of, Jules and Vincent. I almost lost his name. I think they're my two favorite characters in this fucking movie because Tarantino knows how to write some fucking dialogue. And all the back and forth between characters in this movie, especially those 2 guys, are just... I still laugh every fucking time. Now, they're sitting there arguing over fucking... Is a pig a filthy animal? The pig's got a personality, but it better have a damn good personality, stupid shit like that. Gotta be one charming fucking pig, and you obviously got fucking and one of my favorite, Tarantino loves to do these like hard ass left turns in the story. With fucking John Travolta, spoiler alert, he fucking blows Marvin's head off of his fucking shoulders in the back of the car. And it's like, oh fuck, what do we do now? Like, I mean, it's awesome. Like a friend of mine also mentioned when they were trying to bring Uma Thurman back to fucking life after she fucking OD'd because That's not how you use heroin, kids. Just as an FYI.
Yeah. Don't do drugs.
He was like, oh, he's like, yeah, just don't do that. Because it'll be like this movie. He's like, all the dialogue between Eric Stoltz's character and fucking John Travolta. He's like, this just feels genuine. He's like, I'm actually kind of like really tense. Like it's them just yelling at each other, trying to get her back. And he's trying to find his stupid little fucking book. He's like, get the shot, dude. He's like, no, I gotta get my book. I gotta do it right. Like, oh man. I don't want to talk about the, there's the one scene in the pawn shop, but we all know.
Yeah, if you want to talk about something John Holmes would have done.
Yeah, I think the only really cool thing I guess I'll point out about that, and I'll shut up. Someone has pointed out that because all of Tarantino's movies do take place in this little universe he's created, because I think the one thing that ties them all together is the are they called the red apple cigarettes? Like every character's in his different movies all have these red apple cigarettes. Like so it's all in the same universe. But when Bruce Willis is going down the line of all the things in the pawn shop he's gonna go down there and kill those guys with, like every single thing he picks up is in a future like Tarantino movie. Like obviously the samurai swords from Kill Bill, the baseball bat from Inglourious Basterds, the chainsaws from like Hostel. Dare I say the hammer? I think was from Django. Django Unchained. I think that was all things he picked up, and I'm just like, that's a really good theory, and if that is true, holy shit! I would not put it past him to do that.
Good directors do that a lot. They'll put little Easter eggs in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and if that was one, that's a hell of a fucking Easter egg. You had to set up for years to come.
Yeah, no doubt. One of the great things that Tarantino does in all of his movies is he builds the relationships between the characters very, very well. And I think you see that here between like Uma Thurman's character and then John Travolta and Samuel Jackson's character. It's like they don't really know each other in the beginning, but it's like this relationship grows so quickly over such a short period of time. He does that in a lot of his movies. Like Kill Bill's another one. It's such a weird way, because he broke the chapters up into this weird kind of thing, but the way it still works is if you actually think about it in chapter progression about how those characters grow, you're like, oh, now I get it a little bit differently, but it still works so well, despite the fact that he starts with like chapter 7, then he goes to chapter 3, then to chapter whatever, and then kind of bounces around in the story. But yeah, he does develop these relationships with these characters very, very well. A lot of people think that Pulp Fiction is Tarantino's masterpiece. It's the crown jewel in his entire filmography, and I don't know. It's hard for me to argue against that, is all I'm saying, because you get a bunch of guys. Look at these names. Because at the time, Tarantino, his star was on the rise and was becoming known in Hollywood. But you wouldn't be able to get this list of actors without being able to take a really, really good story to them and say, hey, I have this small thing I want to do. It's not a $200 million blockbuster. It's not the next comic book movie. It's not whatever. But it's a pretty badass story to tell with badass characters. What do you think? Yeah. And then he gives it to people like John Travolta, Samuel L. Jackson, Harvey Keitel, who was already kind of a legend at that point. Ving Rhames, who'd been around a while. Rosanna Arquette, her entire family's been huge. Christopher Walken, legend. Bruce Willis, legend. It's like you can't get these kinds of names involved unless you got a story that really, really kicks ass. So they do that from the very beginning.
Oh, yeah.
Cora, what are some of your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I've never seen it. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
She obviously just likes to watch Jeremy's reaction. She says that every now and again.
Okay, that makes my day so much better. Thank you for being at the butt of that joke, Jeremy. Anyways, I like Pulp Fiction. I like everything Tarantino, and I'm really glad you had this on your list, because it was on the list of 20 that I narrowed down and was just shy of making my honorable mention. So, good pick, Jeremy. 100%.
Like I said, I kind of didn't really think about the fact that like 3 out of these fucking 5 are like in my top 5 of all time, and I guess that this was one of them. I was like, well, I almost spoiled that list, didn't I?
I made a list that this might surprise Jeremy of about. Right off the jump, I made a list of about 16 movies, and I kind of knew that Jeremy would probably catch a couple of them for me. That Cora would probably catch a couple of them for me. So I was like, oh, I'm waiting to see these guys' list before I commit to mine. But
that's fair. That's fair.
You are the host.
Because I want to try to showcase as many movies as possible, but I can't really disagree with any of the ones that are on your guys' list as I saw it. But yeah, definitely go check out Pulp Fiction. Let's go check out the chat real quick. TSS says favorite '90s film: Shawshank Redemption. Might be hearing from that one later on. Pulp Fiction, Schindler's List, Goodfellas, Nightmare Before Christmas. Not a big Tim Burton fan, but it's a tremendously successful film. The Usual Suspects is a good one. Reservoir Dogs, another Tarantino movie. Big Lebowski, Seven, and Terminator 2. Yeah, I can't.
Wow.
A lot of really entertaining movies coming out of the '90s. JCS says I'm on point. Clearly there's something wrong with him, because I don't know shit. I'm a moron. Don't believe me when it comes to any of this stuff, guys. I am just a movie fan. I am not skilled at anything. Go watch your own movies. One of the sayings that I hear a lot that I like is that the movies are subjective. You can like this movie, I cannot like the same movie. That's fine. Just go see the movies. They're fun. They're a way to escape reality for a little while, and they're fun. I mean, they're a good way just to go kind of enjoy yourself. Let's see. Really Mysterious. What's going on, my man? He says, I see some of my fan club is here. We're all in your fan club. What's going on, Really Mysterious? Guilty Pleasures. Dog Soldiers. I don't know what Dog Soldiers is. Reservoir Dogs. Really Mysterious says is awesome. Some great stuff coming from you guys in the chat right now. Who is next? I think right now we are on. Is it my turn?
You.
It is my turn. Look, again, I'm gonna stick with a theme here for the first two movies. And we're going to go back to another pornographer, and I'm going to go with The People versus Larry Flint. Now, again, it's about a pornographer, but again, not really about porn. It's a very, very interesting story. For those of you who've seen it, you know. It's a 1996 biographical drama film directed by Milos Forman, who did a lot of great movies. It stars Woody Harrelson, Courtney Love, and Edward Norton. It chronicles the rise of pornographer Larry Flint and his subsequent clash with religious institutions and the law. The film spans about 35 years of Flint's life, from his impoverished upbringing in Kentucky to his court battles with Reverend Jerry Falwell, and is based in part on the U.S. Supreme Court case Hustler Magazine versus Falwell. Though it wasn't a financial success, The People versus Larry Flint was lauded by critics, and it garnered Harrison, Love, and Norton, as well as Foreman, multiple accolades and award nominations, including nominations for Best Actor for Harrelson and Best Director for Foreman at the 69th Annual Academy Awards. Again, it's not so much about porn, a lot more about politics. So I think this movie is kind of a head fake. It's like, because when you think Larry Flint, you think Hustler Magazine, porn. Not really. It's definitely much more of a political piece than it is anything else, because it does go after a lot of the Constitution, freedom of speech. You know, how much do you have to fight to make sure that you have the right to say what you want to say, and whatever your particular feelings on pornography may be, you have to admit it is kind of part courtroom drama in spots. It is a pretty crazy biographical film about a very interesting person, Larry Flint, who just passed away recently. I did a small video on that when he passed away a few months ago. It's another kind of, not guerrilla film made, but it's a smaller film that hits really, really hard because of the story and the characters. Jeremy, I think you've seen this film. I'm pretty sure me and you have talked about this film before. What are some of your thoughts?
I think we've talked about it, because I don't think I've seen this one, but I know of it.
It's good.
I was like, I don't.
It's one of the
know if I can.
Woody Harrelson ones where he's very serious and dramatic, and just, a lot of movies portray court trials in a way that looks hokey. This was very well done, and it's a story that everyone should hear if they appreciate their freedoms.
Fair enough. It also very much shows that Woody Harrelson can act. He acted the shit out of this movie.
Oh.
I mean, and then
Indeed.
I'm not a huge Courtney Love fan, but I can't help but really like the way that she played his wife in this movie. I mean, it probably wasn't too much of a stretch for her to play a strung-out heroin addict, but I mean, that's whatever your feelings on Courtney Love may be. I grew up a Nirvana fan, so I have feelings about Courtney Love, but. And Edward Norton. I mean, it's like Edward Norton and Woody Harrelson. They acted the shit out of this movie. I mean, there's a reason why these guys are, near the top of the list for, the people you want in your movie these days. It's because of movies like this. There's another one I'm going to talk about here in a little bit with Edward Norton, again, that he acted in the show, that one too. But again, it's a very interesting look at the reality of the situation surrounding Larry Flint back in the 70s and 80s. Actually, Jeremy, he actually started out not too far from us.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he had a hustler club in Dayton. Dayton and Cincinnati was where he started. He was born in Kentucky. He ended up moving to roundabout our area, and he had hustler clubs in Dayton and in Cincinnati, and that's kind of where the Hustler newsletter that would become Hustler magazine started, was in Cincinnati. So he's got a history not too far from
I guess I guess we gave you Flight, Hustler, and fucking football. You're welcome.
Yeah. So show a little love to Ohio.
You're welcome.
In the chat. But
right.
yeah, it's a very, very interesting movie. Again, it's about a pornographer, but it's so much more than that. It's a great character study for this guy who, even before the assassination attempt, which is depicted in this movie, by the way, and I think that's one of the more exciting scenes. It's very, very tense. Even before that, he was a pretty strange, pretty out there character he knew what he was. He never tried to put it out like he was like his porn was for art. He made very, very clear, I'm putting this stuff out there for guys to jack off to. He never tried to pretend to be something he wasn't. And it was very different because, I mean, Playboy and Hugh Hefner have been huge for, a couple of decades at this point already. So, I mean, and he went out there and was just like, I'm not about the art like Hefner is. Hefner likes the art of the female form, and sex is something to him. Sexuality is something to him that should be enjoyed and reveled in. He was just like, I'm just going to take pictures of, some chick doing whatever to herself, and I know what I'm doing. I know what we use this for, and I'm not going to deny it. He was brutally honest about who he was,
right,
and didn't care if you liked him or not. And that kind of honesty, I mean, you got to kind of respect it in one way, because I mean, I like when people aren't phony, and even if I don't like you, I can appreciate you not being phony about who you are. There is something about that. Mm-hmm. But on top of that, it's a very, very interesting story. And for those of you who haven't seen this, it is part courtroom drama. It does have a lot of courtroom scenes where he acts a fool, and there's some tenseness to it. The really good courtroom scene is the end, when you hear Edward Norton making his case in front of the Supreme Court. That was actually a very, very good courtroom scene. It's a little bit more emotional than the rest of the courtroom scenes in the movie, but still, it was just one of those scenes where Edward Norton was just acting the shit out of it. It was just very, very good. But and like I said, Courtney Love's pretty good at it too. Go watch her. that's all I can say. But yeah, it's a fantastic movie that I really, really hope you guys watch. This is one that's on my long list of retro movie reviews that I want to get into, because it is a fantastic movie, I think, and I hope you guys go and see it. Miss Cora, what's the next movie you want to talk about tonight?
I am going to go with Casino from 1995 with none other than Robert De Niro, Sharon Stone, Joe Pesci, James Woods, Don Rickles. I mean, this movie was
I know those people.
Directed by Martin Scorsese, written by Nicholas Pileggi. This movie, I don't know. I don't normally like mobster movies. I haven't even seen the Godfather movies.
I'm not falling for your shit anymore. Have you actually seen it? Or are you just trying to break? Like, I'm not falling for your shit now. You're trying to break my heart. You being serious?
Oh boy, but I love Casino. I'm a huge Joe Pesci fan to begin with, and Sharon Stone has a really great role in this movie with a nice character arc. And Robert De Niro narrating it, I think, was a really cool element to it, what you don't see in a lot of movies. It's just fantastic. Love it. I could read the description from the Internet Movie Database, but basically it's just a guy who's running a casino and all his business ties, how he falls in love with a woman, and how his marriage is unique and troubled, and his best friend, played by Joe Pesci, right-hand man, Nicky, and the feds get involved, and I think it portrays, I don't know enough history about Vegas, but a pivotal time when Vegas was changing. And it just, the visuals, the costuming, like I said, the narrating, it's Scorsese. You don't have to say much more than that. But this is an iconic movie in my memory, and it's literally one of my favorites of all time. And I'm really happy I was able to include it on today's list. So there you go, Casino from 1995.
Very, very good movie. Again, great cast as well. Jeremy, what do you think?
I don't know, because I haven't seen this, because like Heat, Goodfellas, and I assume this is all gonna ash into one goddamn mob blob. That's a phrase.
It is now.
I don't know. Yeah, yeah, I said it. What? Yeah, I don't know. It's not, when you get names like that, like, you know, fucking De Niro, Pesci. These guys don't slouch. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They're gonna go in there and act the goddamn shit out of that. Like, all I was thinking, every time you say Pesci, all I think is like from Goodfellas. He's like, funny how? Tell me how I'm funny. You know, he just stops that whole fucking. He just stops dude right in his tracks. He's like, funny how? You think I'm a clown? I'm a funny guy? And he's like, motherfucker, I almost had it, you know. Like, dude, I would have shit my pants, to be honest, too. I'm not gonna lie. I'd be 4 foot nothing, but he'd take my fucking kneecaps out with a fucking, like, spoon or something. Jesus.
Yeah, I love mob movies. Goodfellas, Casino, Godfather. I forget who it was I heard many years ago say this. It was another movie pundit or something like that. Said everybody watched the mob movie and they imagine themselves being a mobster. They think, you know what, I could do that. It's just one of those things you always think to yourself, oh yeah, I'd love to live that life. There is something alluring to it, because it is. I mean, especially, you know, way back in the day, and, you know, from the 30s all the way up through the 60s. And maybe into this time period as the mob was really building Vegas, because if you're a history buff out there like I am, you know the mob built Vegas. Vegas was not built. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, it was
that was there. Yeah, that was home base.
The Vegas of the 70s was not what it was today. It's very much evolved into something else.
Right.
But I mean, that was home base for the mob. But yeah, there's the mobsters, even though they were criminals, everybody knew they were criminals. They were still so entrenched in their communities that the people, even if they, you know, people either loved them or they were afraid of them and acted like they loved them, because they were like, these guys run the neighborhood, and if I want to be able to operate in this neighborhood, even my regular day-to-day life, I have to make sure these guys are on my side. But yeah,
there's a certain respect to it.
Yeah. But and to top it off, it's like even that lifestyle was it was very dignified for the longest time. I mean, I've read interviews. I mean, if you, like the guy that Goodfellas was based on. Why am I drawing a blank? You guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know.
But even he said the problem was, the reason why the mob fell apart fell apart is because they lost that grip on. They lost the ability to realize what respect and dignity really was. They started to run to other things that were more important and didn't realize that that's what held the mob together for 100 years, was the fact that there was kind of this code to it all. And once they started to abandon that code is when the mob started to kind of not become what it was, and now it's just another gang. And that's one of the things I've heard a lot of the old time mobsters talk about. And this is an interesting movie to me, because it kind of shows that interesting transitional period of the like late 70s into like 1980, where, you know, these things were starting to fall apart. Because, I mean, all good things come to an end. I mean, that poster right there says no one stays at the top forever. That's really kind of the point of the entire movie. It's like they had this great run of however many years they had it, where they were making money hand over fist in Vegas, but eventually someone screws it up. The other thing I really liked about this movie is, God, the brutality of some of the deaths. I mean, they weren't necessarily gory, but they were like, Jesus Christ. And I've heard the stories. I've read the books. This is how things went down. Like the death scene for Nicky, for Joe Pesci's character. It's like you're watching that, and I'm like dragging this guy out to the middle of a cornfield somewhere, and, you know, beating him down with baseball bats, like 4 or 5 guys just wailing on him, and even when he's still alive, just kicking him over into the hole and pushing the dirt over on him when he's still breathing. It's like that is a. I mean, you don't kill somebody like that because, you know, unless you've got a reason. I mean, that's
Right.
you're trying
You
to prove
fucked
a
up.
point. It's one thing to put a bullet in somebody's head and to make it quick, but I mean, you're proving a point. You want somebody to feel it.
This
There
is
was
personal.
a brutality. Yeah, there was a brutality to the way that these guys operated back then, and it's scary to think that human beings, did then and even do now, ever existed that would do that. It's just very, very scary. But at the same time, it's like it's such a great visual of how Vegas was built. And then you have that epilogue that De Niro narrates where he's like, nowadays, back then it's like it was this way, but nowadays they're amusement parks. There's like, someone shows up and drops their kid's college fund, whatever. It's not the same as it was back then. But I mean, it's still it's one of the great mobster movies, which maybe that's going to be a subject of an entire video that we do one day, because there's been several.
I would love that.
Yeah,
I would be down.
It's a genre of movie that is so engrossing. I mean, you could think of 3 or 4 right now that it's like, oh, those are very good movies. Anything from this to like the original Scarface to Untouchables is in a way a mob movie. I mean, it's very mob centric. Talking about Elliot Ness and all his troubles with Al Capone. But, I mean, yeah, it's just there's something about mob movies. Yeah, there's something about mob movies that just suck you in. I mean, the characters are so amazing. But yeah, a fantastic movie that if you guys haven't seen, I really hope you do. It's great. It is one of the best mob-based movies ever made, in my opinion. It's up there with Godfather. I know somebody in the chat said, what is it? It was kind of a sequel to Goodfellas, or kind of a Goodfellas 2. Kind of. It's
the same people.
It's the same people, but the setting is obviously very different. Goodfellas is centered on the East Coast, while Casino is more about the growth of Vegas under the rule of the mob. But I mean, it's definitely a lot of the same actors, De Niro and Pesci. I mean, those guys get together for any movie. It's good, especially the mob movies. Those guys have been together a couple of times, and they're just good shit. But go see Casino. Kind of a long movie. I think that movie pushed about 3 hours, as I recall. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
So
but it covers a pretty decent time span, though, and there's a lot of character depth they have to kind of get in there, so it makes sense that it's long.
Yeah, directed by Scorsese, by the way. So if I throw Scorsese out there, you're going to be pretty confident that movie's probably going to kick ass. I mean, not that he hasn't had a few stinkers, but I mean, yeah, it's a Scorsese. He puts a lot of really good movies out. But that is Casino. You guys should definitely go see that one. What are we on next? Who's up next? Jeremy, is that you? Go ahead.
Well, I'm going to do one of Frank's infamous segues. I guess in the mob, I guess what happens to you next is, you might end up in prison. So my next movie
do
is...
not pick my other movie.
Oh, you too fucking late. I picked the Shawshank Redemption.
Damn it! I decided that's higher up on my list, so I was gonna do it. Okay, I'll just piggyback off yours. I'll be quiet. Kudos for having good taste. Damn it.
I mean, good taste. Yeah, it's fucking... I mean, this is... I actually just watched it before we did this show. And I watched my next one I'm going to mention yesterday. Kind of get back into it. This is probably, to me, it's, one of the more serious movies. It'll still make you kind of laugh here and there. It's got some little light moments. But I mean, god damn, this movie is an emotional roller coaster, dude. This is one of those slow burns that we were getting, and I'm like, it's all worth that fucking build up to get to the end. And it's this fucking... There's no reason why that famous shot we're seeing in the rain, with his fucking arms up in the air. That's a euphoric moment. It's all worth it in the end. It's to get to that point where it's yep, well, we threw the fucking warden under, and he took the fucking pussy way out. Of course he did. And then you got fucking Tim Robbins, and of course, you can't get wrong with Morgan Freeman. And it spans over about 19 years. This guy who gets convicted for killing his wife and her little side piece. Can't really do anything about it, unfortunately, so he gets fucking thrown in there, and over time he kind of... It's when you go back and watch it again, you see where he was still playing these things out over this entire time frame. But I guess seeing it for the first time and then doing it, holy shit, That reveal when he fucking pulls the poster down, that shit's hilarious. Because you're standing there just like, oh, no fucking way. That's what he... What?
Mm-hmm.
Man. Also, it's also kind of, close to home, obviously, because the Shawshank prison, known as the Ohio State Reformatory, is like 3 hours north of me. And something that I've visited before, and it's actually a really cool place to visit if you've never been there. It's something to see, because I know we mentioned that last week with fucking Air Force One. I was like, wait, that has to be on my 90s list, because what a fucking location, man. Get busy living or get busy dying. Goddamn right.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Cora, what are some of your thoughts on the film?
Well, I love this movie. So it was my next pick. The characters that stood out to me weren't necessarily the two main, Ellis and Andy. It was the warden, it was Tommy and Brooks. I mean, those were amazing. I mean, James Whitmore played Brooks. Bob Gunton, who's fantastic, played Warden Norton, and Gil Bellows played Tommy, the kid who Andy tried to help and ended up getting and was the reason Andy found out that there was somebody else who confessed to the crime. The whole movie just, I mean, everybody loves this movie for different reasons, but the redemption of Andy Dufresne is just sad but good, but everything he went through is just like, oh. But then at the end, he's out there working on a boat on a Mexican beach, and eventually Ellis, Red, he goes to that tree, he digs up the box, and he's on his way, and he did not go the route of Brooke. And that really made me happy. I mean, and the fact that the warden got exactly what he deserved.
Fuck yeah,
he's using.
If I may,
the pie,
Dave Chappelle,
the pie and the shoes, all of it, and we've talked about before and how Andy was able to, when they were working on the roof with the guard to negotiate getting beers. I mean. The whole movie is fantastic. And all those little pieces make it just like a quilt of wonderfulness.
So yeah, you got a little Dave Chappelle there. Gotcha, bitch! Right there at the end. I will admit one last thing. This is one movie that I am not afraid to admit. When it gets to that moment with Brooks, I still cry. I will actually still tear up. Fuck you. You were there. And I'm gonna break fourth wall here. You were there. You watched me cry. I admitted it too. I'm like, I'm not gonna be okay, because, man, the Brooks thing just gets me, man. They have that room at the prison too. They have that set of Brooks's room in like a little side thing of the prison, and I'm just like, oh, I got a picture. I'm gonna cry. It's Brooks.
I always wanted to name a bird Jake, but I never got a bird after that.
Right.
So.
Just befriend a little crow and name him Jake. Fuck it.
Yeah, for some
What about
reason,
you, Frank? What do you think about this?
Well, for some reason, I'm reading a little bit about it. This book has been interpreted as being grounded in Christian mysticism. I'm like, I don't get it. I mean, not that I'm, overly read on the Bible or anything, but, I mean, I don't really get it. And that Andy is offered as a messianic Christian-like figure, with Red describing him early in the film as having an aura that engulfs and protects him from Shawshank. I don't know. Whatever. I think religious people just want to see that. I don't really know. But all I know is...
I mean, the warden's angle was kind of that way, I guess, if that's where it's going, but I don't know.
Yeah, but, just looking at the cast. You've got Tim Robbins and Morgan Freeman, who killed it in this movie. Bob Gunton, who's been one of the great character actors of my lifetime, is the hateful warden. William Sadler is Haywood. William Sadler is just so good in so many things.
Like, he's fucking awesome.
I know. I don't think he'll ever get enough credit. And he's had some starring roles, but he is really kind of one of the best character actors ever. Clancy Brown, this is one of the first things I remember seeing Clancy Brown in. I know he's done a lot of voice stuff really over his career, but he's also been in a lot of movies. Actually, I think Clancy Brown is going to be the main antagonist in the upcoming Dexter season that they're doing on HBO.
Oh,
They've hired him.
Oh,
I'm all about this.
That'd be cool.
About this.
Jeremy, are you up for reviewing the new Dexter stuff when it comes out?
considering I've never seen the fucking show, I don't know.
Okay.
But then you got Gil Bellows, who at the time I think he was in Ally McBeal and stuff like that. His star was really starting to grow. But one of the great actors in this movie was James Whitmore, who played Brooks. It's not just that one scene. I mean, this guy's been around. Mm-hmm. This guy had been around forever, and his acting was just so damn good. One of the first big movies that he was in when his star really first come around was this movie I talk about a lot called Them, about these ants that kind of grow to large proportions because of nuclear testing, and they end up in L.A. and then blah blah blah. He plays the L.A. police officer in that movie that is one of the primary guys that's trying to fight this thing. And I look at him then, and I look at him in this movie, and I'm like, the only difference between those two guys is this guy's got a few more wrinkles, but they still look badass. Mm-hmm. They still have that great actor's look about them. I mean, he was definitely from a whole other time of Hollywood. But yeah, his character in this movie is one of the best. It's one of the most engrossing to me. But again, it's like you've got Andy.
And has almost one of the saddest endings too, because he gets his freedom, but realizes he doesn't want freedom.
Yeah,
he couldn't have done anything about it.
That talks to not to go off on too much of a thing about this, but like institutionalism and like these guys that are in jail for so long that once they do get a chance to get out, they are facing a life in a world that they know nothing about. So it really is that man out of place. And the irony is that the Andy character is kind of the antipode of that. He's the reverse. It's like he doesn't fit into this prison life at all. I mean, we find out later on in the movie that he shouldn't be there, but it's like, but there is this one thing about him, his crazy hopefulness that one of these days it's all going to work out. That kind of it lets him get through the rapes in the shower, the laundry room, and all the bad food with maggots in it, and all the stuff that we would all lose our damn minds to deal with for one day. He deals with it for 20 years over the course of this film. So there really is kind of this weird dichotomy between the two characters. One has the very, very sad ending. The other one obviously has the better one. But yeah, a great movie. And don't forget, this was based on a short story by Stephen King.
Yes.
I know Stephen King known a lot for his horror stuff. It, Langoliers, so on.
Yeah, but
but
this and The Green Mile, man.
Yeah, but I mean, you forget that he's also wrote this. He wrote The Green Mile. He wrote Stand By Me was based on the story by him. He's a hell of a storyteller. So yeah, definitely. If you're one of the 4 people on the planet that hasn't seen this movie, definitely go check this shit out. It's a fantastic watch. And again, despite the fact that it's about this guy being locked up in prison for 20 years for a crime he didn't commit, there is a certain amount of hopefulness to it. It's like you feel like if this guy can get through that, maybe whatever I'm not going through in life is so insurmountable. Maybe I should just show a little bit of that stick-to-itiveness, and maybe I'll get through. But, whatever. You get whatever message you get from the movie. That's the one I got from it. Let's see. I guess now it's my turn. Now, I'm going to get off the porn for a minute.
Now, it's okay, Frank. We won't judge you for picking Clueless.
No, I did not pick Clueless. It was on my list, but I ended up knocking it off. Look, I'm not going to lie to you. I like that movie. It's fun. It's a fun one.
I did too.
I don't have it on physical media, but if somebody's watching it, if one of my kids comes and says, "Hey, I want to watch this," I'm like, all right, whatever. I'll grab a beer and I'll watch some Clueless. It's a fun movie. But I went with something for my next movie that is slightly darker. Slightly darker subject matter. And that is Schindler's List. It's a...
one of my honorable mentions.
I told you, I went big on this because I wanted Jeremy to know that while I do think the 90s were still a terrible decade for entertainment as a whole, there are some good movies that came out of it. It's a 1993 American epic historical drama filmed and produced by the great Steven Spielberg. It's based on the 1982 historical fiction novel called Schindler's Ark by an Australian novelist named Thomas Keneally. The film follows the man Oskar Schindler, who was a German industrialist who, with his wife, Emily, saved more than 1,000 mostly Polish Jewish refugees from the Holocaust by employing them in his factories during World War II. It stars Liam Neeson as Oskar Schindler, Ralph Fiennes as the SS officer Amon Goth, and Ben Kingsley as Schindler's Jewish accountant Itzhak Stern. Often listed as the greatest film ever made by some people, arguably. The film received international acclaim from critics for its tone, Spielberg's direction, and acting, especially Fiennes and Neeson. as well as its atmosphere, and it was also a huge box office success, making $322 million against a $22 million budget. I didn't realize the movie was that cheap, but whatever, it's a great movie. It obviously was nominated for 12 Academy Awards, winning 7 of them, including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay, and Best Original Score, which I'm not, like I said, I'm not big on movie scores, but this one was very, very emotional to get you into the movie. In 2007, the American Film Institute ranked Schindler's List 8th on its list of the 100 best American films of all time. And the film was designated as culturally or historically or aesthetically significant by the Library of Congress in 2004 and selected for preservation by the National Film Registry. This movie is one of my favorite movies ever in the world to watch. I watch it once a year because this movie is very, very hard to watch. I generally don't cry at movies. I feel this movie in my chest when it's on. It's excuse me. When you go back to things that actually happened in history, especially very terrible things like the Holocaust, you have to portray them honestly because you have to. You have an obligation to tell honest stories about this very terrible thing. And I know that it's very hard for a director to walk the line between how can I tell this story honestly but not bring people into the absolute horror that actually existed through some of these things. And I think that Spielberg said, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to show it to them, grit, grime, blood, dead bodies, and all, because we need to see this. We need to be reminded of how terrible this shit was, so that no human being will ever think that it's a good idea ever again. we don't want to. I mean, you forget the past, or you're doomed to repeat it, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
It's one of those things. I don't know what else I can say about the movie if you've seen it, because it's engrossing. And on top of that, from a filmmaking perspective, I mean, it's Spielberg. The guy knows how to frame this movie up and to get you involved in it, either through the visuals or through the emotion or through the music. But on top of that, I mean, it's a story that desperately needed to be told, and he told it in the best way you could have told it. One of my favorite things about this movie, and one of the hardest things for me to watch, is you have that girl in the red dress that's walking through as they're doing the liquidation of the ghetto. And later on in the movie, and I think this is really kind of the point where Oscar kind of has his face turn, for lack of a better term. He is overlooking them burying a bunch of bodies, and he sees this same girl in the red coat. It's the only color in the entire film. So it draws your eye to it. You see that same girl in the red coat in one of these pits where they're burying bodies. And that is where he has that moment where the switch flips for him, and he's like, wait a minute, I don't want to be the part of this. He always knew, but he was like, that puts it at a different level for me. That's the straw that breaks the camel's back for him. Excuse me. Again, if you need a very honest, very sad, very upfront, very gross at times, but needed for the story, look at what was going on during the Holocaust and World War II. This is it. This is the movie for you guys. Jeremy, what do you think?
Yeah, this is we're gonna do war movies at some point. There's a reason why any movie or anything like that that's ever been made about World War II, they think of Spielberg, and that's why they call it Spielberg's War, because who else has captured, I mean, even different sides, I mean, Saving Private Ryan, or like Schindler's List, two different sides that you've seen of the war. How do you capture that to that degree? Like, holy shit. And like you said, there's a reason why the one thing that's in color was the little girl's coat. Because then when you see it again, you're just like, and that's when it fucking just, not even a gut punch, it's just like, gut punched, you threw me down a hill, shoved it in the wound, twisted about 7 times, and then just fucking let me die there. Like, good God. This movie gets in your face, and it's like, yeah, like you said, it needs to. Because it sinks in more. There's a reason why there's buildings are still staying to this day, because you don't want to forget that. And I think I've always heard, was it Eisenhower? One of the presidents that take pictures, because, I mean, I'm going to paraphrase this. dumb fucker is going. This may be me speaking. Is gonna just say like, well, that didn't happen. Like one day, someone's just gonna say that shit didn't happen, and it's like, yeah, it fucking did. I don't know how you're gonna sit there with a straight face and tell me that shit didn't happen at some point in history. You know.
Well, the people that think that way are morons. It's a very small segment
I
of
know.
the population.
It's,
they're
I know, but I'm
happily growing
saying
smaller by the day. But you know,
yeah, but yeah, it's. I think I know that one of the famous scenes that they kind of hit you in the face is like when I can't stop calling him Voldemort because it's fucking Ralph Fiennes, but he fucking goes out to the I don't know.
Ray Fiennes is one of my favorite actors. Did you guys see him in Quiz Show? Fucking amazing.
Quiz Show's a good movie.
No.
But Schindler's List for me is just one of those movies that just it's kind of like a sociopath test. You know, like, are you affected by this or not? And if you're not, there's something wrong with you. But
it is a hard movie to watch.
Steven Spielberg really did it justice and then some. And you guys have said everything about it I could say about it. And yeah.
You know, the interesting one.
If you haven't seen it,
yeah, one of the interesting things about this movie,
watch it at least once in your life, please.
Yeah, is a lot of the movie people didn't want this movie to get made. They looked at Spielberg when Spielberg was shopping this movie around. People like the studio heads were looking at him and they were like, "Dude, why do you want to make a movie that's so terrible?" It's like because he wanted to be from the jump. He wanted to be very honest about it. So he's talking to studio heads and they're like, "Dude, we don't think that you can make a movie that's that sad and have anybody come see it." And he's like, and he had wanted to release it sometime in the winter. He's like, "So right around Christmas, you really want to release a movie like this?"
Like, are you sure? Not Christmas.
But
that was ruined for me when we were watching. Okay, because like you said, this is a hard movie to watch. But I watched this like when I was in junior year of high school. Like watched it in a history class. I hadn't seen it again until like sometime last year. And that's like a 10+ year gap there because my mom hadn't seen it. I was like, you definitely want to be sitting down for this one because it's long, but also it's a trek. Like when we got to that midpoint, it's like, all right, we need to take a break for a second.
Yeah, it's
some heavy shit.
It's definitely a heavy movie to watch, and if you guys haven't seen it, boy, it's not for the faint of heart. They are, like I said, they are brutal in depicting what these people were doing, and and again, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Mike. That's why I was like, wait, I'm thinking the point wasn't I? I'm like, no, yeah, the snow. The fucking teacher had to ruin that for me. When is that scene where you see the smokestack and you see the shit and it's snowing? He's like, that's not snow. I'm like, oh god damn it, no.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, you didn't have to tell me that shit. Oh fuck. Like,
yeah.
The entire class, you could just feel everybody go like, oh, god, like, well, thanks for that.
Yeah, but again, it's one of the things that makes this movie fantastic is obviously the job of the actors, and I pointed out Ralph Fiennes and Liam Neeson already. Ralph Fiennes was so good at what he did that many of the Schindler Jews that were still alive that were on the set, one of them that was alive and came to the set was the young girl that Amon Goth, the character that Fiennes played, that girl that he kept as like his maid. And apparently, when she first saw Fiennes in uniform, she started to shake because he looked so much like the real Amon Goth, and it took her back to that place.
Wow.
And but the cool, I mean, she obviously knew it wasn't him, but she said she said he right here, this is the guy. She's like, and I guess Ralph Fiennes actually stayed very close friends with her up until her death because he for one, he felt bad from what I've read, but for two, it's like he was just so like just learning firsthand what the Schindler Jews went through. I mean, because luckily there were still several of them alive when the movie was being filmed. Being able to hear these stories firsthand, I've heard that it had a pretty profound impact on both Ralph Fiennes and on Liam Neeson, who at the time was really kind of, I mean, his career was kind of just starting at the time, despite the fact that he was not old, but I mean, most people start acting in their teens and have been around for a while before they get their break. I mean, this was kind of one of his first big movies. He had done like Dark Man and a couple of other things, but I mean, this was his first big movie because a lot of people questioned, casting Liam Neeson for this. I know, who was it? Mel Gibson was one of the people they had talked about playing the role of Oscar Schindler. I honestly I can't see anybody playing this other than Liam Neeson. But
Agreed.
but again, one of the best scenes in the film is that final scene, which was actually kind of thrown together at the last second. They actually found all these people and flew them into where Oscar Schindler was buried.
That was cool.
And kind of had that little epilogue, and it's like that visual of Liam Neeson standing over his grave, and you just see it like with the light behind him, the silhouette. I was just like, God, that is riveting. It's great visuals from one of the great directors in history. Just there was nobody that could have told the story like Spielberg. In the time it needed to be told at that time by that person with these actors, and he put it all together just right. And there's a reason why this is considered by a lot of people to be one of the best movies ever made. And the fact that a lot of people didn't think the movie was going to do well. Well, I hope everybody who passed in this movie got fired because this movie made a ton of money, and it's in the record books, kids. I mean, it's up there. But yeah, go if you have a good 3 hours and 7 minutes to kill, and you really want a very, very visceral experience of what it was like to deal with it, to experience the Holocaust, what it was like. Go watch this. There's been plenty of movies made about the Holocaust, and a lot of them have been very, very good, have been very honest. But this one is definitely at the top of the heap. That's all I'm saying. Let's see. Someone anonymously tipped us $1. Thank you very much. They said Natural Born Killers, Being John Malkovich, Dazed and Confused, Heat. Yeah, Heat's a good one. Bronx Tale, The Usual Suspects, Reservoir Dogs, Trainspotting, Truman Show, Silence of the Lambs. Blown Away, which is actually a very underrated movie. Blown Away is a good movie. Falling Down is another very, very good movie that very nearly ended up on my list. I've often compared Falling Down to the newer Joker movie. I said they're the same thing. I even, in my review, I called the Joker movie Falling Down with face paint. It's a very similar movie. And Desperado as well. So thank you, Anonymous, for dropping the tip. I still have not figured out why donations won't play. Maybe I just need to go ahead and make another overlay. But we're moving on from Schindler's List. And going on to Miss Cora's next one, I think she was actually just going to go. I mean, do we need to talk about Shawshank Redemption again? Is there anything we didn't say?
Actually, I'm gonna save my last one for the last round because you guys have some. I'm just my honorable mentions if that's okay, real quick.
Well, then we'll go circle around right back. Oh, you want to go some honorable mentions? Go ahead.
Go for it.
Yeah. So The Usual Suspects, Fargo, Truman Show, JFK. Schindler's List and Fight Club. Those were my honorable mentions.
I like it.
Yeah, can't argue against any of those. Again, some really great movies that came out of the decade. But again, look at the filmmakers. The filmmakers, guys that have been doing it for a long, long time at a high level. Jeremy, what's the next movie you want to talk about then?
Okay. Well, as my if it was meant to be this kind of joke, but as my sign suggests. We're jumping to the I know, not like my all Prince joke. We're jumping to the year 1999, and again, one of my all-time favorite movies. The one I watched yesterday was The Boondock Saints. You're
Good
laughing.
One.
I love this movie. No. I fucking love this movie. Look, this is like super baby Norman Reedus. I almost said Newman Reedus. Had too much of this damn tequila. Fuck. We're doing it. We're doing it again. As it goes on, I get worse. I'm fine. I hate to be that guy who's like, oh well, you all know him as Daryl Dixon. I'm like, yeah, well, I know him as fucking Murphy McManus. Fuck you. Well, fuck you. I could say that. This is I don't remember if I put this on my cult classics list, but it definitely is one of those. This is almost like Tarantino-esque in a way. Like sometimes it's just over the top and just ridiculous half the time. But shit, you get Norman Reedus and Sean Patrick Flannery, fucking David De La Rocco, and of course Willem Dafoe, who's amazing. Just don't have to. I gotta explain that. And I love the way this movie is like framed. It's you see the aftermath, and it's like. The cops and then Willem Dafoe is the FBI agent, like trying to like track them, and you go through the scene of like what happened, and then it flashes back to like, okay, so here's what they did, So I love the back and forth of it. It's a cool vigilante movie. You know, the two Irish brothers had this weird epiphany where they're like, "Hey, we should like kill everyone who's bad." Straight up, simple. Um, yeah, and there's a reason why this poster. I've had this poster in like every place I've owned for shit. I don't know, a good number of years. So there's a poster of the two of them holding the guns and then the prayers in the middle. And I have it, yes, set. I always kneel down and I have somebody set the poster where the guns would be in the back of my head.
I've seen that poster more.
That's exactly the height.
I've seen that picture more than once. Where's my you see my lamp back there? My Boondock.
Yeah, I was like, I know, I'm jealous. I love that lamp. I saw it in a store like several times and I never fucking bought it and I don't know where the fuck to find it anymore. And I know Frank's not gonna fucking give me his, so either I have to like make one, which I could probably do. It's no big deal, but man.
My sister was actually cleaning out her garage and gave me that lamp, and I was like, "Hell yes!" If I'd have known she'd have had it, I stole it years ago.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, Cora, what do you think about the film The Boondock Saints?
Fantastic. I never saw the sequel that you guys talked about last time it came up, but I liked the first one, and I'm a huge William Dafoe fan. So, yeah, great movie. And kind of a standout. You know, there's not a lot of movies like it. So I don't care how old it gets. I think it's going to stay relevant for a long time.
Yeah, there's something about the vigilante stories about, regular people taking matters into their own hand to protect their neighborhood, their city, whatever. That's you always kind of relate to them a little bit more than you want to admit that you do. but yeah.
Because like I said, admit it. You even thought about it.
Who doesn't? Who doesn't every now and again say, God, you know what I'd love to do? I'd love to just go set fire to that crack house across town that has been such a problem forever. I'd love to go do it. I mean, everybody thinks that. Not everybody acts on it, thankfully, or else there'd be a lot of crazy shit. But, yeah, again, very well acted. Again, Willem Dafoe. He wasn't in the second movie nearly enough for my taste, but whatever. We got enough of him to make it interesting. Perfectly. I mean, God, and one of the great things about this film is that it's very much a passion project for Sean Patrick Flanery and Norman Reedus. This is not something they're doing to make money, to make names for themselves, or to win awards. They won't put one of these movies into production unless they've got everything just right. Because it took quite a while, Jeremy, way longer than normal, to get the Boondock Saints All Saints Day out as well, because they were very particular about they were very particular about the story, the script, the dialogue, how it was going to work out for these characters from one time to the next. It's definitely something that they take these roles they take very, very seriously, and I think that's one of the reasons why the movies are so great.
These two guys are like still bros to this day. Like I've been watching Norman's show, Ride with Norman Reedus, where he goes and just rides motorcycles. He takes little trips with other actors and shit that he's like friends with. And the one where he did with Sean Patrick Flanery was like, you think these guys had never stopped being friends like every day since then. Like they fucking go out and hang out. And of course they make a few, Boondock Saints jokes, but yeah. And I was kind of hoping, there was like a 10-year gap between the first and the second. And any other time I'd be kind of like, do we want to nuke the fridge again? If you know what I'm talking about. Do we really want to do that?
We just talked about this on Tuesday, Jeremy. How sometimes, follow-up stuff needs some time to come together.
I'm not mad that I didn't do that show because I probably would have gotten a rise out of myself being really pissed off because I'm kind of particular. You already can hear it, don't you, Frank? I'd be so pissed off about half this shit. Look, because I'm particular about it too, and that's the good thing. I said any other type of movie that waited 10 goddamn years to do, I'd be kind of like, And I know I say I don't mind the second one; it works. But I'm saying I hate to be like, it's not the first. The first one's fucking awesome. I mean, just like with Zombieland, I trusted that too. That was another 10-year gap, and I'm like, all right, not bad, but hey, I still enjoy it. And I was still hoping that the fucking third movie would come out in 2019, but I mean, whatever, drop the ball there. Don't care. Make a third. Because I'm fucking here for it. I'm here for those two guys coming back.
Yeah, I'm really excited for what potentially will happen with the third one. But again, they're not in a rush. Flannery and Reedus, they're
I know,
like, we
but-
got to have it just right. It's got to be everything that it needs to be because now you're not just it's not just a passion project for the people involved in this. It's a passion project for the fans. And Flannery
now you're
and
building
Reedus
off.
know that. They're like, we can't just
Yeah.
go make a movie now to get to complete a trilogy. There are expectations that the real hardcore fans of this have that if we don't meet those, we failed them. And they don't give a shit about making $1 million off this movie. They give a shit about the fans and failing them. They have to provide a certain story, a certain look, a certain feel, a certain experience in this third film. And the fact that they're doing it step by step is great. And not only that, it's not just Flannery and Reedus. Most of the production staff, the director and everybody, this is a very serious thing for them. And because I think the same guy directed the first two movies. Am I right?
Yeah, I was like Troy Duffy. I know
Yeah,
he
Troy
put out
Duffy.
a thing. I don't know if who else has the band name? Boondock Saints. Which the music is in the movie. Tee. So clever. He put out like a thing. I assume it was real, because you can believe everything you see on Facebook. But he put out like a little snippet of like the script for like the third one or something. He was rolling around, and I'm like, I read this little thing, and I'm like, I don't care. I see it, and I believe like this is something that's happening. Like going down like an alleyway, like they're trying to hide up against the wall, listening to sirens, and he's like, "Oh, is that for us?" And he's like trying to hold one of those wounds. He's like, "Yeah, I think that's for us." They're like peeking around the corner, like trying to hide, and I'm like, "What the fuck's going on? I want to know." So,
Yeah, but again, it's for Troy Duffy and for Flannery and Norman Reedus. This is a passion project to the max. So they're not going to put another movie out unless they know it's going to be good. And I'm really looking forward to it. I'm hoping we get it soon. But again, I'm willing to wait patiently with bated breath because I know that when these guys are ready, they're going to give us another great film, and it's going to be one of the great trilogies, I think, really probably of all time, artistically at least. Maybe not financially, but certainly artistically. Because like I said, these guys care. These guys really, really care about the stories and all that. So,
I wonder if, because just my stupid thought of, they start out with those little Beretta 9s, right, with the silencers on them, and then they upgraded to like those fucking Desert Eagles with silencers. I'm like, the fuck you gonna shoot in the third movie then? What the hell?
you just walk around with a howitzer in your pocket.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, Jesus Christ, the gun's
What?
gotta be bigger than that. You're shooting like, it doesn't get much, handguns don't get much bigger than the Desert Eagle. I mean, maybe they do, and I just haven't figured it out yet. At this point, they're gonna be shooting phasers or some shit. Something absolutely outrageous. But
Smith & Wesson 500 or something.
Yeah,
Jesus.
that is the Boondock Saints. Guys, go see this. I know who was saying in the chat. Somebody said the girl's accent was annoying. Yeah, but she was so great though. When she first walks up
in the second one?
When she first walks up to the church, that conversation she has with the cops, I was like, oh my god, I'm in love with this woman. It's like, she also played Dexter's wife in the Dexter TV series.
Yeah, it's meant to be like the deep ass fucking Southern drawl. It's because it seems ridiculous because it is. That's the point.
Yeah.
I don't want to knock Norman Reedus, but I'm like, his Irish accent's not great, but I don't care. It's like the movie's still fucking awesome. He tries.
Yeah. Moving forward, I think Cora's got one more she wants to talk about. Cora, what have you got going?
I do. My favorite of the 90s, Contact from 1997. I love space science to begin with. Matthew McConaughey doesn't play a doofus in this movie, so it's fantastic in that regard in itself. It has a kind of an element of time travel in a way at the end. Jodie Foster, fantastic portrayal of Dr. Ellie Arroway, who after years of researching finds conclusive radio proof of extraterrestrial intelligence, send plans for a mysterious machine through the radio signals that she interprets, where she's doing research, and it gets taken on by the world governments combined, and she gets selected to be the person that goes in the quote machine. And it's about her personal life a little bit. It's about space science a little bit. It's about religion a little bit, and the world's response to the concept of having contact with extraterrestrials. And there's a really beautiful beginning sequence where she's with her father, who inspires her to be excited about astronomy and teaches her how to use not only a telescope but also ham radios. And so it's a beautiful portrayal of somebody who develops a passion for something and is, in the forefront of, being a part of with their passion about making progress or breaking ground in the next level of, tech or understanding of something. Groundbreaking, maybe is the right word. And the scenery's great. There's several places that the movie's set in. One there, I think it's in Costa Rica, I believe. There's a part where they're in Asia, New Mexico, and it's just beautifully written. It's got great pacing. The score is wonderful. And it was directed by Robert Zemeckis, and it was written by people I don't recognize, Michael Goldenberg and James V. Hart. Tom Skerritt's in it as well. There are other people in it. The girl who plays, I forget who she is. I'm blanking. That plays the young Ellie. Oh, Jenna Malone.
Yeah.
She's been in other movies. I don't know. All I gotta say is I love Larry King plays himself in it because they show people on TV talking about it, and just a very beautiful, heartwarming but science-y movie altogether, and I love it. I never forget the sound of the machine as it pulses and turns. It
was really good sound work on those parts.
Yeah, it sounds like a heartbeat almost. And the signal, excuse me, not the machine. And anyways, the crew she has at the Costa Rican antenna radio office, they kind of remind me of the Twister crew, like, people who are really nerdy and really interested in what they're doing. And there's all sorts of little nuggets of this movie that make it altogether a great movie. So my last and final and most favorite movie in the 90s is Contact for 1997.
Jeremy, I'm not sure. Have you seen this movie? I don't think me and you have talked about this. I had this on DVD, and it's a great movie. Have you ever seen it?
I have not, because I feel like you did say that. You're like, I have it, so if you want to watch it. I have not seen this.
It's a very philosophical look at the idea of contact with somebody not of this world. And it's one of the things that I found interesting about it. I don't think I'm spoiling too much of it. I mean, Christ, the movie's 25 years old at this point. But it doesn't you don't really. The only person that ever actually talks to the aliens in this entire movie is Jodie Foster, her character, Ellie Arroway. So it's not like we usually see when we think about these movies where there's contact between humanity, between the Earth and other beings from other planet. We always think of the ships coming down that are the size of cities and blah blah blah. But
Independence Day,
stuff like that. It's you realize very very quickly that these beings are way ahead of us. I mean, they've advanced way past anything we can even conceive.
And they never actually come to the Earth. The machine. He's gonna watch it, but you're right. I gotta be quiet.
Well, it does pose a lot of these questions, and it was interesting to me the conversation that Ellie has with this alien person, this alien thing, that he says, you're going to get here in time. It's not going to be soon, but this is the first step. This exploration that you guys are on, it's a journey. It's not the destination, it's the journey. We're glad that you guys want to take it, and we're willing to help you, but we're not going to give you the ball game. We're going to give it to you in drops, because, I mean, let's face it, the human mind is fragile and stupid and broken in a lot of ways, and it's not smart to give us all this stuff at one time, because we're going to find some way to screw it all up. So,
Frank, have you ever watched SG-1, the TV series?
I saw Stargate the movie, and I really like it. I didn't watch a whole lot of the TV series. I watched a little bit of it. In the
TV series, there's an alien race called the Asgard, and they almost exactly mirror what they hint at in Contact. so that helps people.
It is very, very close to the basic premise of this. But yeah, it's a very, very philosophical movie. And, you know, John Hurt's character, the crazy billionaire, I love his shit.
Oh, boy, don't get me started. When he goes to space, oh, boy.
Yeah, that was some crazy shit. I mean, definitely some, like, Steve Jobs eccentric weirdo with more money than he knows what to do with. But, yeah, a fantastic movie. Again, it's a very philosophical look into the idea of making contact with other people. And, again, the cast, I mean, go look at the cast list for this movie. It's ridiculously
And Angela Bassett
stacked.
even has a little role in it at the end.
Well, Angela Bassett's there throughout the entire movie. She plays
That's true.
Secretary of Defense or Secretary something like that. But then you've got James Woods, who plays the presidential something. I want to say he's like something or other to the president. And then you've got Tom Skerritt, who plays the president's science advisor, who's kind of quarterbacking the whole process of this discovery. And you, as much as I like Tom Skerritt, you kind of don't like his character in the movie because he's kind of a putz. But I mean, there's just so much great acting in this thing. It's so good. It's so many different angles. Again, very philosophical. Yeah. So if you're going to sit down and watch this movie, I think you should. But your brain's going to get a work in. There's a lot to process. You may actually have to watch this film a couple of times to really get it all.
Right.
But there was a point where I haven't watched this in a long time. But there was a point where I could almost recite this entire movie word for word because I was just enthralled by it.
Oh.
It's a fantastic movie. Again, a very philosophical look at the idea of people of beings from another world making contact with us. And again, it's all very subtle. It's not the big spaceships coming down and getting some message from on high about we're here, we're listening, blah blah blah. It's very subtle.
It's more about our human reaction to any actual event happening.
Right.
It is. Absolutely. But let's see. Cora, was that your last one? Because I think I got two left.
It is.
I think I must have got Turner. See, this is what happens when you guys pick the same movies.
I think you went right back to her or to me. And I was like, well, wait, you got two because I have one left.
Okay.
So.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and give one of mine right now.
Okay.
And I don't think I stole this from anybody. Pretty sure I didn't. But we're going Silence of the Lambs, kids. Honestly, how can you think 90s and not think of this movie? It's
no, there's so many other better ones, but
okay.
I don't know. Silence of the Lambs is good. I don't think it's the best in the series of Hannibal Lecter movies.
Oh, I think this is by far the best.
Put it on my list.
Oh, this is by far the best. Now, don't get me wrong. Hannibal was a good movie. Not the same, but it was a good movie. Hannibal Rising was okay. And then we have the one that was made in the 80s with William Peterson that is technically not part of this canon, but still a very good movie that you guys might get a kick out of. But it's a 1991 American psychological horror film directed by Jonathan Demme, who was a fantastic director. Written by Ted Talley, adapted from the Thomas Harris book that came out in 1988 of the same name. It stars Jodie Foster as Clarice Starling, young FBI trainee who is hunting a serial killer named Buffalo Bill, played wonderfully by Ted Levine, by the way, who skins his female victims. And to catch him, she seeks the advice of imprisoned Dr. Hannibal Lecter, played by Anthony Hopkins, a brilliant psychiatrist and a cannibalistic serial killer in his own right. The film also features performances from Scott Glenn, Anthony Heald, and Cassie Lemons, who played her friend in the FBI Academy, who she kind of left acting but went on to do a lot of producing and stuff like that. If you go check out her resume, you'll find out she's had her hand in a lot of really cool TV shows and movies. Silence of the Lambs was released on February 14th of 1991 and grossed $272 million against a $19 million budget. That is huge. And it became the fifth highest grossing film of 1991 worldwide. It became the third film, the other two being 1934's It Happened One Night and 1975's One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, to win Academy Awards in all the top 5 categories and sweep that year, winning Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Actress, and Best Adapted Screenplay. It is also the only Best Picture winner widely considered to be a horror film, even though, I don't know, it's debatable. I'll go with it because I don't think it really matters. To be a horror film, and only one of 6 horror films to have been nominated in the category, with The Exorcist, Jaws, The Sixth Sense, Black Swan, which I never saw as a horror film, and Get Out most recently in 2017. And is regularly cited by critics as one of the most influential films of all times. and is on the National Film Registry, National Film Institute ranked as the 5th greatest influential film. It's on a bunch of lists of really good movies. I won't go into them all because, you know, it is. but yeah, Silence of the Lambs. Cora, talk about this one for just a minute.
This movie was my introduction to the whole Hannibal Lecter character. I didn't know about the books prior to this. Like I said before, I like disturbing crime movies. I was drawn to more the Hannibal side of things, not so much the actual case of, you know, the missing senator's daughter and the weirdo who kept her in the whole angle. And so maybe that's why this movie isn't as much of my favorite of the 90s. But Jodie Foster did an amazing job of portraying the FBI character. Blanking on her name. I know it's terrible.
Clary Starling.
Yeah.
Thank you, Starling. And showing how green she was. When it's like she knew what she was getting herself into, especially with her interactions with Hannibal. And it's just, I don't know, she carried herself well. She really, I don't know, it was one of the most believable roles I've seen in any movie. She wasn't Jodie Foster, she was this FBI agent. Especially at the end when she's in the house alone, how she handles herself. And Anthony Hopkins blew me away. I've been a fan of him for years. I don't know that if they would have picked anybody else to play Hannibal Lecter, it would have carried as well. Nor have maybe had the interest to do the subsequent films.
I think at one point Gene Hackman was up for that role.
Oh no!
Which would have it's interesting.
Good.
I like Anthony Hopkins and don't want anybody else to have ever played this character, even though one other person did. But yeah, actually, this was a movie that Gene Hackman actually had his eyes on for several years, but eventually just decided that the subject matter was just too dark. It wasn't something he wanted to do, so he ended up walking away from the project. And then eventually they got to Anthony Hopkins.
Well, I liked the whole thing, and it really drew me into researching the books. I haven't read them all. I will at some point finish them to see the other angles that, you know, the movies don't cover. But good movie. I love the lighting in this movie. Sometimes people don't take the time to see the value in, you know, the musical score, the lighting, the cinematography, all of those components that make up the movie, you know, for the senses other than just understanding the plot. And the scenes when she's in there talking to him in his cell, and you're not even in the room, but you feel how dank and dark and, you know, awful that place is. And that, I forget the guy who plays the wormy warden, that guy, you know.
I know who you're talking about. He's been a regular character actor for a long time too.
Right. Just down to even the audiology of it, like, you know, him pulling the chair up and getting close to the glass, and, you know, hearing the moth fluttering around in the house, you know, where the girl's being held captive. The whole thing is disturbingly wonderful. That's the best way to put it for me to put it. So, yeah, disturbingly wonderful movie.
Yeah, Jeremy, what do you think?
I think I don't wear this mask at my other job for no fucking reason. If the fucking camera will focus. Yeah, there's a reason why I wear that fucking mask for my job. That's all I'll say about that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, well, possessed little fucking cannibal, I guess. I don't know really. A lot of things. I mean, I don't sit there in the fucking, my face pressed up against the fucking, cage and shit, just like, you know, in like someone's ear, but I could. That'd be kind of weird. Get punched. Yeah.
Yeah, Van Edwards says something interesting in the chat. Says Jodie Foster should get a Lifetime Achievement Award just for this movie. I don't know. Well, I don't know. I wouldn't argue if that were to actually happen. When she trembles and she says, "Mr. Lecter, you feel that fear?" Absolutely. I think that's a great thing to point out. Is I mean, Jodie Foster obviously had been around for a while. She was in Taxi Driver with De Niro years earlier, and a bunch of Disney stuff. So I mean, she already was a pretty seasoned actress at the time. But to to come in here and play this, young FBI agent who she already wants to go into a pretty insane world as an FBI agent to be a criminal profiler and to talk to serial killers anyway. That's not something a lot of people can do and not lose their own shit. But I mean, her performance in this is it's staggeringly good. And dude, she's killed it in a lot of movies. She's killed it in a whole shitload of movies. This one in particular, though, is one of the ones that really stands out. And then again, Anthony Hopkins, I mean, he's in the movie for a grand total of, 13 minutes?
Yeah.
And kills it in an Oscar?
That's such a powerful presence.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, there is this palpability you feel when they are, especially when they're down at the cell and they're having their conversations. I mean, that is a conversation. You feel that dialogue in your chest. There's so much tension. And it's great stuff. And then, of course, you have the whole murder mystery. You're chasing a serial killer, which in and of itself is kind of an exciting, cool thing to see visually played out in movies. But, again, just such great acting. And then you got Scott Glenn. You've got so many people in here. Also, I want to point out Frankie Faison, the black guy who plays the guard.
Yeah.
Is in every Hannibal Lecter movie that has been made except for one, and that was Hannibal Rising.
Hannibal Rising?
He was also in the Manhunter movie that came out in the mid-late 80s we were talking about, Cora, I think.
The one that I'm about to watch this weekend.
Yes, he actually plays in that movie as well. So before Anthony Hopkins actually played Hannibal Lecter, there was a movie that they had made about the first book in the series, Red Dragon, called Manhunter, that had William Peterson, who was most famous, you guys might remember from CSI. He actually plays the FBI agent that is trying to find the killer in the book, and ends up, he was the one who caught Lecter, but who was first talking to Lecter to try to find the other guy. But who was it? It was not Ronnie Cox. Who am I thinking of? Last name's Cox. He was the one that played Stryker in the
William something.
Yes. William Peterson is the one. Yeah, is the one who plays plays the FBI agent Will Graham. But a great movie in itself too. But he plays the guard in every movie except for one. One of the things I really liked about Hannibal is you actually got to explore his character a little bit. It wasn't just like he was the lovable guy that is watching all these crazy psychotic people in their cells. There's a conversation that happens between him and Clarice, played in the second one by Julianne Moore, that really gets into his character a lot more, and you really get to flesh him out a little bit. And he's actually a really great character that I wish they would have used more at various points in the series. But having kind of broken series anyway from that first movie not really being part of this Silence of the Lambs canon. And who knows if we'll ever see another Silence of the Lambs movie. I think me and Cora were talking the other day that Thomas Harris, who wrote the books, I don't think he has the plans to write anything else. So we're just kind of left with whatever Hannibal Lecter we got on the airplane flying away at Hannibal.
And Anthony Hopkins isn't getting any younger.
He ain't getting any younger, kids. We need to get Anthony Hopkins out there. We need to finalize this thing with Hannibal Lecter. But yeah, Silence of the Lambs is one of my absolute favorite movies. And Cora, did you have one left? Now I'm kind of lost.
No, that was it.
Well, that was it. So we're going to circle back around to Jeremy.
I did my honorable mentions.
Yeah, we're going to circle back around to Jeremy. He's got one more left, I believe.
Yep. Again, because I apparently only took 3 years, 91, 94, 99, because we're back here again. This movie, yeah. I realized that when I wrote it down, oh, damn it. This movie, I think, for the longest damn time, was my favorite movie. It was always my number one favorite movie. I don't know why. I was so into it. I still am, and it got knocked off the fucking shelf by Ready Player One, which is not fair, to be honest. But from 1999, The Matrix is my final one. You want to talk about some fucking mind-blowing shit? That ever-present question of, are we living in a simulation? Is this, real? It's really existential. And this is one of those movies where it's, came out in that time where, we talk about, the Blair Witch. It's then they throw up that whole thing with, they put this shit out on the internet. It's the internet's still kind of in its infancy, at least for, I hate to say civilian use, but for people to widely have the internet. It's this wasn't really there. And then when they had this whole concept of you got this computer hacker played by Keanu Reeves, he's, that's his gift, is he's a little gifted computer hacker. and he quite literally falls down the rabbit hole. I was mentioning this before. I didn't realize this little white rabbit is sitting right here, which is kind of funny. Again, if you know what I'm talking about, you know. That's funny. And his whole world quite literally is like just pulled out from underneath him when Lawrence Fishburne, his character Morpheus, tells him like, yeah, this isn't real. This is what do you say? Like he's like, you believe it's the year 1999 when actually it's like more like 2199. He's like, but to be honest, we really don't even fucking know. Just we don't know anymore because there had been this huge war between the machines and the humans, and it sounds almost like some iRobot / Terminator type shit, where we fucked around and found out we made AI and it got too damn smart, and I mean, I'm that nerd that I got so into the fucking Matrix. I know what happened. It was a robot that became more sentient than the rest of them. Again, I always say iRobot is literally the prequel to the Matrix. Like one robot out of all of them went bad and actually ended up killing his owner, and it started this whole distrust between the machines and the humans. And then they do explain. Morpheus says, "We don't know who struck first." I'm like, "Well, it was actually us because we're humans and we're stupid." And yeah, we did scorch the sky because we thought, well, they're solar powered. Then, well, joke's on us because they just start growing humans in pods, which is kind of fucked to begin with. Because hey, well, now we have all this infinite power source. Ha. Man, the green tint over it, the weird surreal shit where you just realize like, and then when they reel back in, knowing that this isn't real, it's kind of like it changes your whole perspective. You're like, well, I mean, do I really have consequences here? You know, you can break some of the rules of physics. Also, that movie gave us bullet time, which is the coolest. I mean, come on, you all know the famous fucking shit. Does the shit and the fucking bullets are flying past him. God, it's a fucking cool ass shot.
I love watching the behind the scenes stuff with them, you know, how they did those shots. It's really creative filmmaking.
For the time, that shit was crazy, dude. Sit there in the room, they just let him basically just falls backward, and then it's those little like you see the whole tracking, like the camera's just like all the way around, and they just make it one big. God, that shit was so cool. And I guess if I can make little segue teasers, I've suggested that we do top 5 shootouts because holy fucking shit, that lobby shootout. I mean, balls to the wall, just fucking, we're just going in, quite literally guns blazing. Woo! Amazing.
Yeah, Cora, what are some of your thoughts?
Love the Matrix movies. I didn't pick it, I guess, because, you know, I had so many others, but I was wowed by the Matrix movies. I got really mad at the end on the third one when they basically tell you everything's a cycle. This happens every, you know, so many years. Okay,
Talking
let's
about
just, you
the
know,
third
blah
one.
blah blah. And I'm just like, oh, I got attached to these characters. I was excited to see the all this come to fruition, to find out, you know, what's next for humanity, and come to find out it's just repeat.
Well,
but anyways,
but they wouldn't know, right?
I know, but it just drives me nuts. I love the costuming. I loved how they portrayed the good guys, the bad guys, the people that went back and forth, and how they really did a very good job of very quickly orienting you in the world of the Matrix and what that means in a way that I think would be hard to do if it had been done any other way. I don't know if I'm saying that the right way, but they did a good job of giving you the background and really locking you into making it feel like it's believable. And when Morpheus puts his hands out with the red pill and the blue pill, I mean, that is an iconic cultural reference, you know? I mean, it's everywhere now. And the White Rabbit, you know, I mean, I've seen pictures of people getting the actual tattoo, just like the one in the movie. The guns were badass. I'm a big fan of the guy. I'm blanking on his.
Lots of guns.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the guy who plays Smith, who's from Lord of the Rings.
Hugo Weaving.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
That man
Hugo
is
Weaving
awesome.
Is iconic in this role.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Sorry. How do you not? It's like it's almost borderline goofy, but you're kind of like, oh fuck, not this guy again. Damn it.
It's like I think the movie could have been made with somebody else playing Keanu the role besides Keanu Reeves, but I think
well, it was almost
Hugo
Will Smith.
Weaving
It was very
and
famously
Lawrence
almost Will Smith.
Fishburne. I think Lawrence Fishburne and Hugo Weaving were pivotal. I don't think Keanu Reeves necessarily was, but he just happened to be the guy that got the role. Not saying he was bad at it, but great movie, good pick, and one of the coolest characters was the one, and I hate how they changed her out. They changed out the actress during the trilogy, but
Oracle.
Yeah.
Didn't she die?
Yeah, I'm about to say, I think the girl that played it in the first movie, I think she passed away. So it wasn't necessarily that they recast her. It's that they didn't have much of a choice. I think that's how it goes.
I like the first one.
But they did kind of work it naturally through the dialogue kind of into the story.
Yeah, you can still believe it. Yeah, you got something with computer programs. You'd think, well, she's a program too. She would just, boop, because shit was starting to get real.
Yeah, no doubt.
I think one of my favorite trivias about this movie that's like kind of a ballsy but still at the same time a giant fuck you is that the Wachowskis pitched this movie idea to the studio. I assume it was the same one, and they're like, "Well, here's how much we want to make this movie for," and they're like, "Whoa, no, that's way too much. Here's this. We'll give you this much money." What they did was they blew that entire budget they gave them on just that opening scene, which is a phenomenal fucking opening scene, by the way, with Trinity running from those agents. They showed them just that, from the start to when she gets in the phone and the truck smacks in, and then the three agents are like, well, we have our program running, it's already begun, zips into the phone. They showed them that, and then they went, okay, guys, we see you. We'll give you your fucking money. I'm like, that almost didn't work, and holy shit, I'm glad it did.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, every now and again there's a stylistic shift in Hollywood that kind of changes the way movies are made. This was one of the movies that did that. It's like, computers having been around for a while, they had been kind of props or plot points of many movies. Going all the way back to the 80s with war games and stuff like that. But to come out in this time when computers were starting to become such an everyday part of everyone's life, the idea of just these crazy story ideas, it all worked out very, very well. For one, I disagree, Cora. I think Keanu Reeves is absolutely the best person to play this. I don't think they would have even gotten a second or third movie of Will Smith would have actually signed on and stayed on for this. But I could be wrong. Maybe Will Smith would have been awesome. I don't know, but I really don't think he could have been what Keanu Reeves was to this. And you got to think about it.
Yeah, because he went and made Wild Wild West. It was a great movie. What the fuck are you talking? He made a good choice.
Yeah,
come on.
Yeah, totally. That totally worked out. But
you're lucky that didn't tank your career.
Yeah, and if you think about it, Keanu Reeves was kind of perfectly positioned to play this anyway, because he was at a point in his personal life where he had a lot of things that were kind of going sideways. I think his pregnant girlfriend just gotten killed in a car accident or something like that, so he was in a very dark place.
Yeah, she died. And his sister getting leukemia. Yeah,
this character is a very... it's not a dark character. It's like this character himself is in a dark place. It kind of fit in, and also just the overall tone of the movie was also fantastic. Also, the use of color palettes. It's all dark, and the only real bright color you get is green. there's a green tint on everything in this movie, and I think it's really, really interesting because now everybody kind of sees green as that computerized color. I think that happens in large part because of this movie.
It was to look like a computer screen, like you were looking at it through that, and I'm like, that's genius. I fucking love it. And all the suits were that little off grayish green. Fucking all the... Oh my god. I'm gonna sit here and talk about this movie for another 2 hours too, but I don't want to.
But yeah, a very good movie, The Matrix. Say what you want about the second and third movies. And
they're great.
The franchise kind of went a little wonky with the second one. I thought the second was okay. The third one, meh. I could have been
I like Reloaded.
We are going to get another Matrix movie coming out in the next year, though. So
yeah, boy.
So maybe they're going to right some of the things that were wrong. Also, I mean, again, the cast for this: Joey Pantoliano, who you see on the left side of the poster. I love Joey Pants. Love that guy. Lawrence Fishburne is badass and everything.
Oh my
Hell
god,
yeah.
the one who turns heel and you don't realize it till it's too late. Like
Right.
the first time I saw the movie, I go,
But it makes sense. It made
Yeah,
perfect
it
sense
does.
for his character. I mean, you'd have to imagine that there are some people that are in that position. They're like, you know what? I can either live in poverty and starvation, or they can just plug me back into the Matrix and I can be whatever I want to be. I mean,
You never know.
yeah, and never know. It's like, so you kind of wonder. It's like, if I were in that position, I mean, what would I do? But anyway, yeah. I mean,
Look, the thing. I'm sorry. I'll geek the fuck out about this. Here's why I say 2 is not a bad thing. I mean, I don't say it's like Terminator 2 levels of sequel good, but I'm like, I actually enjoy the shit out of 2 because, like, I feel like that one was, like, almost primarily in the Matrix, like, for most of the fucking movie. I thought it was great. I mean, the fucking highway chase, for one thing. Holy shit. That was wild.
yeah.
And now 2 is where, the Wachowskis did this thing where, like, that's where 2 has the biggest, like, New York strip cut of fucking steak you could possibly want from this series. You've got the movie, then you have there were 2 video games, one that kind of take place in it. You play as Jada Pinkett Smith's character and her dude Ghost, and Sparks is their operator. You kind of play them while the events of that movie is going on. Then there's Enter the Path of Neo, which obviously that speaks for itself. And then you got the Animatrix, which does show a lot of the other stories from all the past Matrixes, and it shows the story. They've got them like Rogue One, like literally it's the ship that found out that the 250,000 Sentinels are coming, and the girl, like her with her like dying breath, like manages to get the thing into the drop box, and like she dies. That word, they passingly say like, oh, we got word from another ship, and you just think, okay, but no, when you see this girl fighting to get that fucking message out and gets it out to everybody, it's like, oh goddamn, that was awesome. And it shows the story of the kid that there's that cute back and forth between him and Keanu Reeves where he's like, well, you saved me. You're like, yeah, it was because of you. And he's like, I didn't do shit, kid. You got yourself out. And it's like, he kind of did. He kind of did get himself out. Like, he kind of just believed in Neo, and he basically jumped off the fucking roof of the school and they unplugged him like right before he hit the ground. I'm like, oh, well, that could have gone sideways too. And then he wakes up.
Sorry,
Good.
I was gonna say all this talk about it makes me want to rewatch just this one, not the second and third one.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. And I don't remember if this was true, but they said all the license plates that were in the highway chase scene in the second movie were cheat codes to one of the video games. I don't remember which one.
Really?
But I'm like,
Oh,
yeah,
that's
they
a
hit
lot of creativity.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's what I'm saying. If you hear it from the way I tell it, like 2 is not bad because that is like where they just bulked out this whole fucking universe, and it was awesome. And I had it again in my head, and I fucking lost what I was gonna say. Damn it. Something about
Sorry.
No, it's fine. I was trying to think of something else that was in there. Shit. Oh god damn it! It's gonna we're like in the middle of Frank Fossman. I'm gonna fucking like yell it out probably. Oh no, I got it. No, you're right. Because when you play sorry, I got it. When you play through Path of Neo, it kind of does go through. It starts in the first movie. You kind of go through it. You go through the iconic crap like the building getting sealed off, the deja vu shit happens. You go through the lobby shootout, the where he falls backwards. You get to 2, and then when he gets to 2, it gets kind of weird because again, 2, it shows what he was going through. This gets like mind-bendingly weird when he goes through what he's going through inside that mansion, the Merovingian's mansion. It's this weird, intricate like. Because it's a weird little fun house. Remember when he like shut the door on and he opens up again? He's like looking at a mountain range. He's like, oh shit! Like it fucks with you. It's really weird. It shows how he gets out. But then when you get to the third one, of course, you do the cool flying through the air, fighting Agent Smith in the fucking rain. There's like millions of Agent Smiths. You fight the Agent Smiths in the second movie, which was also that's one of the coolest fights I've ever seen. Much as everyone makes fun of Rubber Neo as they've now called him, it's like fuck off. It was like early 2000s. Let it go. It's supposed to look like a computer anyway. But at the end, when you're about to do the whole shit with Agent Smith, Literally they break the fourth wall and they get meta as shit. It just boop, cuts off, and then the Wachowskis come in and they fucking just sit there and they're like, "Yeah, you know what? Maybe this could have been a little bit different. Yeah, we sat there and rolled this around a little bit, and you know what? We're not gonna go with what the movie did in this one. You know what? Fuck it. Here's a giant ass fucking like Robo like Agent Smith like culminated with all the building pieces and all this other bullshit. That's here, fight this, have fun." And I'm like, I had to pause. I paused the game because I was laughing so fucking hard as a kid. I'm like, what? Wait. What? Hold on. And I'm like, okay, this could have been such a cooler movie. Fuck this. This is amazing. So that was one of the greatest fucking things that ever happened in a video game. I'm sorry. They just literally went, yeah, you know what? This doesn't work. It works maybe as a movie, but not as a game. Here's a giant Agent Smith. Fight him.
Go see The Matrix if you have not. Another great movie. Like I said, say what you will about the sequels. The first one was really, really good.
Yeah.
Before I give you my last one, though, I want to do my quick reminder. I know some people have been asking about the Patreon a little bit lately. I'm glad that's growing. There's a link to it right there. It's actually in the description below as well. If you support us on Patreon for just $5 a month, we give away $25 in free movie tickets to one lucky winner who was on our Patreon in the first Thursday show of every month. Again, the Patreon is not really to help pay me or anybody else. It's really, I put a lot of it just right back into you guys, and I send a lot of it out to other comments on other YouTubers stuff and stuff like that. But really what I want to do with the Patreon is I just want to get people out there going back to the movie theater. Theaters are now open. Some states are actually they're at full capacity again. They're not doing the half capacity, stuff like that. So movies are starting to come out. This is looking to be a big summer movie season. Black Widow's coming out soon. I was just reminded of the other day. There's a lot of stuff coming now, and it's time to go see the movies again, kids. So if you support us for $5 a month on Patreon, you can win $25 a month in free movie tickets. We give it away on the first Thursday of every month. So if you guys want to do that, link is in the description below, and we thank you very much for doing so.
In the chat.
It's in the chat right now. It's what Cora's saying. Cora is usually pretty good about putting the link in there. But I want to go ahead and go to my last movie, and again, this is one of the ones. It's very much like Schindler's List. It's a very in-your-face, upfront movie that does not pull any punches at all. But I think that's one of the reasons why this movie is just so damn good, and that's American History X. This is absolutely... This is one of my favorite films of all time. It is brutal.
It's powerful like Schindler's List.
Yeah, I missed my paper. I didn't have it where I wanted it to be. It's a 1998 American crime drama film directed by Tony Kaye and written by David McKenna. The film stars Edward Norton, who I've talked about a lot already, and Edward Furlong, as two brothers from Los Angeles who are involved in the white supremacist and neo-Nazi movements. The older brother, played by Edward Norton, ends up doing time in prison for voluntary manslaughter, but during his time is rehabilitated and then tries to prevent his brother from further indoctrinating into the white power cause. The supporting cast includes a bunch of really great names. Fairuza Balk, who is very popular. Stacey Keach, legendary actor. Elliot Gould, legendary. Avery Brooks, same thing. Ethan Suplee, he was actually just on Joe Rogan's podcast talking about his big weight loss transformation. You go check that out. He's also got his own podcast. It's pretty good. And the legendary Beverly D'Angelo, who a lot of us remember from... the National Lampoon's Vacation movies. The film was released in the United States on October 30th, 1998, and despite lukewarm success at the box office, it only grossed $24 million worldwide. The movie itself was praised by critics.
That's it?
Yeah, with Norton in particular receiving acclaim for his compelling and realistic performance, which earned him an Academy Award nomination for Best Actor. The film has also been used for educational purposes all over the United States and in other countries. Again, racism's not good. Anybody with two brain cells rubs together knows that. But we don't often focus on these stories of people like Edward Norton's character, people who may have been into that at one point, but kind of saw the error of their ways, and not only walked away from that way of thinking, but were active in trying to fight against it. Now, I mean, that part of the movie is one thing, and you guys should definitely go see it for that. But it's also just these insane character arcs for everybody in here, specifically for Edward Norton. The absolutely crazy twists and turns that this guy experiences. He ends up killing some guy who tries to steal his truck, who just happened to be black. So I'm sure he had other motivations. His character did anyway. But when he gets out, trying to stop his brother and his brother is feeling pulled between the only world that he's really known, and his brother who he trusts implicitly, but he's not so sure if he wants to follow him away from this world that he's known. It puts Eddie Furlong's character in a very tough spot as well. So it's a great character study for both these guys. And then again, you've got Beverly D'Angelo. You really do get a chance to, at spots, you get exposed to a couple of flashbacks that are very telling. Edward Norton's character in this movie goes the route that he goes because his father was a fireman who had kind of, I don't want to say racist views, but were not exactly in line with political correctness. Maybe not great views. But it turns out that his father is a fireman in Los Angeles who responds to a fire at a crack house and is, you don't see it in the movie, but is shot and killed by one of the drug dealers who happen to be black, and that sends Edward Norton down this, I mean, like most, late teenagers would have done, 16, 17, 18-year-olds would have done. He just gets angry because he just lost his father. He goes down this horrible path that leads him to essentially being a recruiter for one of the big white supremacist guys in the West Coast, and he works his way up the ladder. He eventually kills somebody, and then his rehabilitation starts. A fantastic movie with an absolutely engrossing story, still relevant to this day, obviously because of some of the stuff going on around the country, and also with an ending that just leaves you breathless. I mean, it's one of those endings that is absolutely a gut punch. Cora, have you seen this movie? If so, what do you think?
I've seen it at least 4 or 5 times. I'm a big Ed Norton fan, but this story is... you described it in ways I couldn't put to words, but it's like Schindler's. It's hard to watch, but really shows you a side of humanity that in American culture that most people don't want to see, and I highly recommend people see it if you haven't and you want to have a serious moment and try to understand something about society you don't understand.
Yeah. Jeremy, what do you think?
I think I need to watch this movie because I actually have never seen it.
Oh, it's good.
I've always heard about it. I've always heard about it. I've seen it around, and I'm just like, I don't know, I just never actually got into watching it. I don't know why. Shit, I think the only Edward Norton movie I've ever fucking seen was Fight Club. Fight Club. I didn't even see the fucking Hulk movie. Shit, you know what I mean? So.
Well, he was good in both.
I've heard it's yeah, I've heard it's deep. It's some real shit. It's something I should probably watch. It's probably again better that I'm this is probably also again I'm older. It'd probably be a little easier to watch, easier to watch now than had I been younger. So.
Yeah, again, it's very in your face. I hate to tell people they need to see a movie because no one needs to do anything, and I hate it when people tell me I need to do something. But the reality is again, with some of the stuff that's been going on the last several years around the country, you need to be reminded why racism is not a smart thing. And this is one of those movies that was way ahead of its time. It was actually kind of a rough road even getting this movie completed because there was the director wanted his name taken off of it because the studio wanted a couple of things cut out or cut down. Edward Norton kind of edited his own version of the movie at one point that didn't agree with the director, and it was kind of a. I mean, I think the way I've read it is that all these guys were these two guys in particular, Edward Norton and the director, Tony Kaye, were very passionate about the subject. And they wanted this movie to be presented a certain way. Again, they didn't really want to win any awards or make, $1 billion at the box office. They had this very specific story they wanted to tell. And I think they absolutely told it. I mean, I think the movie, as it got released and how I have it on DVD, it's mind-blowing. And again, it's got one of those endings that just takes your breath away. It is. You'll sit there as the credits start to roll, and you'll have to refocus back because it's everything is just right there, and it hits so hard, especially the last 15 minutes of the movie. But again, buoyed by a whole ton of just great actors, a fantastic story to be told. Edward Norton, again, he acts the shit out of this movie. I mean, I'm against the idea of doing a specific show on Edward Norton because I know the guy's got 30 more movies in him that are just going to be every bit as amazing because the guy is just so good in so many things. But But yeah, go see this. This was Edward Furlong, fresh off of all of his Terminator fame. I think this and Terminator 2 were probably the two big movies that he did. After that, I know he did some things, but for the most part, just kind of fell off the map. But I mean, he was in a couple of good movies, and this is one of them. And again, you feel his character. He kind of plays a similar character to John Connor, but no Terminator chasing him. He's kind of this misguided teenage kid who's trying to find his way in the world. He's pulled by his brother, who is trying to say, hey, everything that I had done up to this point in my life was wrong. I need you to walk away from this stuff before you end up doing time in prison like I did. And this only life he's ever known, because he's already been accepted by this group of white supremacists who say that they love him, who make him feel welcome, who give him all those, who connect with him emotionally, but they're just not good for him. So it is that tug of war between Edward Norton's character and these white supremacists. And Danny's the character Danny that Edward Furlong plays is the one in the middle. He's the rope that they're pulling on. It's very emotional at times, very, very sad at times. And like I said, the ending is mind-blowingly good. Sad, but good. And I think you guys get a great kick out of it. But those are the movies that we have for you guys. Again, I went way over what I wanted to go over. I try to keep these things to about 2 hours. It never works out that way. But thanks to you guys for all hanging out.
Content. We're having fun.
Yeah, I know. A couple of you guys have been here throughout the duration of the whole thing. I thank you guys for it very much. Van Edwards, Jim M., Michael M. is new. I don't think I've seen you before. I hope you stick around. Same thing with King Need Gore. Thanks for coming around and hanging out. Beersy was in here for a minute. What's going on, Beersy? JCS Foot Rub.
Halsey was here. Bry Guy.
Yeah, Bry Guy. Let's see. Really Mysterious. We love him. He also was the one who sent in that donation earlier. I don't know why I came up as anonymous, but thank you so much for supporting the channel. We really appreciate it. Van Edwards, all kinds of great people. Penny the Pooh was in here at one point.
Mm-hmm.
The only guy not in here was Drew. What a dickhead. Not coming in and saying hi.
Well, I think he's traveling this week. He's pretty busy this week.
I'm kidding. I give Drew shit all the time. But, yeah, definitely check him out. He's going to be, actually, Cora, he's going live Friday night. Is that right? Is he
is Friday night instead of Sunday.
Yeah.
No, it's live.
Okay. He's on live Friday. I may or may not be jumping on towards the end. I couldn't make Friday work for me with the way I wanted to, but I might be on towards the end. Other than that, you can catch Cora on a couple of different things. Cora, what do you got going on?
Nothing until next week, except for popping in here and there. But I may be in talks of bringing back some podcasting with some girls. Maybe there have been some murmurs. So who knows?
If that happens, that's great. The thing you had going on with Jennifer and Gina was pretty freaking entertaining. I really like listening to it.
Gina and I talked a little bit last night, and I was gonna bug Jen this weekend and see what she thinks. So we'll see.
Well, so keep an ear out for Cora being out there again doing her stuff. Jeremy, what about you? Are you doing any online gaming right now? What do you got going on?
No, my fucking PlayStation just shut off over there. It's really depressing. So.
Oh no.
Yeah. Well, I was trying. I hate when I think I'm at the end of something and I'm like, this is probably the end of the game, and I realized it's gonna be stretched out a little bit. I was trying to play a little bit, and I'm like, oh wait, I got 2 people to kill left. I killed one, and then I was like, oh, it's like 8:57. I need to fucking go. And then it just sat there on pause, and I'm like, it's gonna turn off. Fuck, the whole thing turned off. It'll still be there. It's fine.
That's all right. You're a grinder. You'll get back to where you're gonna be.
Oh yeah. There were 2 collectible things that was missing, and I was like, it's probably gonna be a story mission. It's gonna piss me off. And yes, I just did it right in that one. Boom, boom. They were the last 2. I'm like, well, of course it was. And I have 100%ed everything in it. I didn't say what the game was. It was Mafia 3. I was trying to finally finish that because I've never played it. So.
Well, when Jeremy starts doing more gaming online, you'll be able to find the links to all his stuff down there, either on Twitch or on YouTube, one of the two. Whatever he decides to start doing online, you'll be able to follow him as well. And thank all you guys again for coming in. 132
I have one little bit of good news. There's only a slight little reference, but Night Watch is probably coming back with a new channel soon.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing. For those of you who follow both me and Night Watch, he had a little hiccup with his channel, but hopefully that's going to work itself out, and Night Watch will be back up again and putting out some of his killer content. God, he was just pouring videos out for a while. He was doing 3 or 4 a day. But that's good content over there. You can go check out him, Derail, and a couple other links to see all the other channels in the description below. They're all really cool YouTubers I really like, so go check them out. And thank all you guys. Thanks to my amazing co-hosts for being amazing, as always. And before I go, I just want to say one thing. The 90s were still terrible for entertainment. I don't give a fuck what Jeremy says. They made 1 million movies in the 90s. We found 15 that were good. I don't want to hear your shit. That's a bad batting average.
You know what?
Jeremy and I are 2 of 3, and I think we both love 90s movies, so I think on this panel you're outnumbered, right, Jeremy?
Nah.
No, because you know what? I'm gonna fucking do it. You guys are much older than me. It's a different time. You guys went through different shit than I did. I can appreciate it because I was more in that, so fuck you both. You don't get it because you don't appreciate it the same way I do.
I agree with you. I like 90s movies.
Oh, I thought you said you're outnumbered. I'm like, well.
No, Frank is outnumbered because I like 90s movies like you do. So on this panel, he's outnumbered.
Yeah, well, fuck you, Frank.
The 90s. I even put it on the clapboard back there, as you guys can't see. It said the 90s still suck.
I'm sure you fucking... And I went and made a Prince reference. Fuck you.
Hey, that was my high school graduation song. Because I graduated in 1999.
That's awesome.
Thank you guys very much for coming around, for such a great interaction in the chat as well. You guys are fantastic. We will see you guys next time. Till then, adios.